Andarki namaste and a very warm welcome to the IAShub. I hope you are having a very good morning and a very good morning to you. See, before I start with this session, few rules. अगर आपके पास कोई भी comments है, अगर आपके पास कोई भी doubts है, आप comment section में type कर सकते हो. I'll be addressing all of your doubts. And let's start with today's session. As you all know, this is the second session of the Prelims Shatak as well as the Prelims Samadhaan course, जहाँ पर हमने we are going to start with geography, and in the geography yesterday we have dealt with topics such as the Big Bang theory, and little introductions about the components of the solar system, and we got to know what exactly is a latitude, longitude, little introductions. आज हम the most expected questions or the most expected themes के अंदर और थोड़ा डिटेल में जाएंगे, and we'll be covering that in a more detailed manner, right? So आज का एजेंडा क्या है, पहले मैं ये समझा दूं आपको. आज का एजेंडा ये है, we are going to learn the topics of the मोस्ट रिपीटेड थीम्स एंड मोस्ट एक्सपेक्टेड थीम्स के अंदर जो यूपीएससी क्वेश्चंस अब तक पूछा गया और आने वाले टाइम पे जो पूछा सकता है, उस टॉपिक्स को हम क्रिस्टल क्लियर क्लैरिटी के थ्रू मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन करने वाला हूँ. एंड द टॉपिक्स दैट वी आर गोइंग टू डील विद टुडे इज द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ, स्पेशली द वेव्स, the P waves, the S waves, the earthquake, the propagations, as well as the interior of the earth and its layers. Little later we'll move towards the latitude and longitude concepts and the seasons also, right? So इससे पहले मैं आगे जाऊं, I wanted you to revise what we have learned in yesterday's class, ताकि हमें रिविजन में ये मदद करेगा. हम जो कल सीखा है इसको आज रिवाइज करने में मदद होगा, and you will be able to easily recall in the further time period. And see, most of the students study hard for prelims, but लेकिन उनको जो बड़ा दिक्कत क्या होता है ना, वो रिवाइज नहीं करते टाइमली. Now I'll tell you a small technique how to revise what you have read, and ये effective way में कैसे रिवाइज करना चाहिए. For example, हमने कल कुछ टॉपिक्स किया, ये मान के चलो अब अगर हमने रिवाइज किया अभी, and tomorrow morning also you revise it before you start a next topic, and the day after tomorrow also you revise it before you start the next topic, it becomes quite easy. कल पढ़ने के लिए हमें ये मान के चलो 1 घंटा लगा, आज रिवाइज करने में मे बी 20 मिनट्स लगेगा, परसों, कल, फिर डे आफ्टर, then within 5 minutes you can revise that topic. So let's quickly revise what we have learned in yesterday's class. Yesterday's class we have learned about the origin and evolution of the solar system along with the other components of the solar system. We have learned about the Big Bang theory. मैंने आपको Big Bang theory समझाया था. What is Big Bang theory? उसमें singularity क्या है ये भी मैंने आपको समझाया था. Singularity is a place where you have infinite temperature, infinite density and infinite mass and very tiny volume with respect to Big Bang theory. उसके बाद I've told you that there is a Big Bang. Because of that Big Bang, many particles have started to move out, and it was a cloud, and this cloud was named as nebula, or there were some processes that was going on. Those processes, yesterday I told you that the few processes that are involved in the Big Bang theory are, number one, it is your transparency. After few years, how many years? 3 lakh years के बाद. And there is also accreditation that was going on. Number 1, number 2, spinning. ये कल मैंने आपको समझाया था. अगर if you are watching this class for the first time, after this class आपको मैं ये recommend कर दूंगा, please go and watch yesterday's class, जो YouTube पे link नीचे दिया हुआ. And these things we have discussed. Along with that, I also told you what is the condensation. This also we have discussed. So in the Big Bang theory, what are the processes that are taking place, and at the same time what are the outcomes of the Big Bang theory? These things we have discussed in a nutshell. Now before I move any further, I wanted to tell you one thing, that ये जो handout में use करने वाला हूँ, this is the handout where the most important themes and further expected themes are given here. And this handout, what you can do is you can go to our YouTube, the video which you are watching, below this you have few links given, and इस links के through यहाँ पे आप download prelims revision card यहाँ से download कर सकते हो, या if you want to know about this prelims Samadhaan program, you can know more about this program. At the same time, you can also download it from the link that is given here. WhatsApp link है, इस link के through आप download कर सकते हो. यहाँ पे download free handout for geography, interior of the earth. So press here, it will direct you to the handout, right? So this is where you can download the handout. Right, so I want you to keep this handout with you, because while explaining I'll be using this handout. The content that is there in the handout, I'll be using it. So chaliye, let's quickly go back to the revision of what we have learned in yesterday's class. Yesterday we have learned about the Big Bang Theory. I told you that Big Bang Theory is the reason why you have the origin of the universe, and in a nutshell, when this Big Bang took place, there was a big blast in the universe, and this blast has created few components into the universe. That is nothing but the creation of time, the creation of space, the creation of matter, and the creation of energy started with this Big Bang. There was absence of friction. ये friction's absence होने के कारण all the material that was present in the space, it started to move around, rotate, spin. At the same time, जिसके पास ताकत था, जिसके पास heavy था, those materials started to condense. After the condensation, what happened was accretion was also taking place. That means the heavier materials came towards the center and the lighter materials moved out. The spinning was continuous, and further what happened was the started to form small planets, solar system develop hua, sun. So these things we have discussed in a detailed manner yesterday. And see, we will be moving towards the solar system. ये भी कल हमने discuss किया था. In the solar system, I told you that these are inner planets, these are outer planets, and inner planets are nothing but Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Outer planets are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And I told you that outer planets are mostly gaseous in nature. They are gaseous oriented, and dominance of gases is there. Inner planets ki andar, you got to know that they are rocky in nature, and their density is high as compared to other planets. Why? Because sun has started to throw out solar flares, and these solar flares has washed away all the atmosphere on these planets. Likewise, these planets, rocks got exposed, but the gases dominated planets are Jupiter and Saturn. Ice dominated planets are Uranus and Neptune. And I also told you that there are two different belts which you need to know. And current affairs point of view से मैंने आपको ये कहा था, there is Oort cloud. So I told you what is asteroid belt, and I also told you what is the Kuiper belt. So Kuiper belt is a belt which tries to define what is our solar system and what is not our solar system, right? Beyond this, whatever you're finding, they are not planets, but they are dwarf planets. I also told you what do you mean by a planet and what do you mean by a dwarf planet. प्लूटो को प्लैनेट क्यों नहीं कहता है और बाकी सब प्लैनेट्स को प्लैनेट्स क्यों कहा? It is because there are conditions to be declared as a planet. That is, a planet should be clearing its orbit. Now, a planet should be round. A planet should have the potential to pull anything that is there in its gravity. So, any object when it comes and hits the planet, that should not change its orbit. If it is changing its orbit, that is nothing but your dwarf planet. And dwarf planet, it keeps on changing the orbit and it do not have the potential to pull everything in its orbit. Uske alawa, I also told you what is asteroids, and when these asteroids, when they come onto the surface of the earth with varying sizes, उनका अलग अलग नाम है. ये हमने कल भी पढ़ा था. That is, what is a meteor, what is a meteorite, and what is a meteoroid. And asteroid belt form क्यों हुआ था? I told you earlier there used to be celestial bodies यहाँ पे, and in this belt what happened was some other bodies, celestial bodies, they bombarded with each other, and because of that, the tiny particles which you get to see as compared to other celestial bodies, they are moving in this belt, and they also orbit around the sun. कभी कभार क्या होता है, इनका रास्ता बदलकर they started to come onto other planets, right? So when they come, these asteroids, they get attracted to the gravity of other planets. When they come onto the surface of the earth, you have different names. कभी कभार ये shooting star के नाम से भी बोला जाता है. So these are some things we have learned. I also told you what is a comet. Comet is nothing but a rock plus ice plus dust. तीन ऐसे चीजें हैं. इसके अंदर होता है और गैसेस की डोमिनेंस ज़्यादा है, और when these gases they start to come towards the sun, they get exposed and sometimes they give out the flames. So the color of the flame will decide what kind of a comet it is. Recently current affairs में हमने ये देखा था, there is a green comet that is coming onto the surface of the sun and it is passing near to the earth, so we felt that that might come into the orbit of the earth, right? So these things we have dealt, and I also told you what is Oort cloud. ठीक है, what is Oort cloud? Oort cloud एक ऐसी एरिया है जहां पे सबसे ज्यादा कॉमेट्स देखने के लिए मिलता है. दिस इज द मदर बेड ऑफ कॉमेट्स, एंड इस बेल्ट के अंदर there are millions and millions of comets that are present, and these comets sometimes are pulled by the sun and various influences. So these are some things that we have discussed in a detailed manner. Sir, last limit of sun's gravity is called Oort cloud or Kuiper belt. See, last mile of sun's gravity is Oort cloud, not Kuiper belt. Kuiper belt is the place where our solar system define करने के लिए कोशिश करते हैं. It is like sun, planets are present before the Kuiper belt. ठीक है, सन का प्लैनेट्स कहां तक प्रेजेंट है? कूपर बेल्ट तक. सन का ग्रेविटी कहां तक जा रहा है? वो ऑर्ट क्लाउड तक, राइट? एंड आई ऑल्सो टोल्ड यू यस्टरडे दैट सन इज ए स्टार, राइट? लाइक दैट यू हैव millions and billions of stars in the space. Now where did the stars come from? All the stars came from the Big Bang. You know how they are formed. That is condensation हो रहा था, accretion हो रहा था, right? At the same time you also got to see the process of differentiation. मतलब 3 ऐसे processes आपको याद करना चाहिए, that is differentiation, accretion and condensation. All these things we have dealt in a detailed manner yesterday. आज what we'll do is we'll go one more step ahead and we'll try to learn about the interior of the earth. This is the first topic, and every year 1 to 2 questions are again asked from this topic. So पिछले साल भी एक question है. Before I start this session, I wanted to show you the previous year questions here. Previous year questions से अगर आप देखा जाए, I'll be showing you 2 questions before I start my session. That is एक previous year question है, 2023 में ये पूछा गया था that they went into very high conceptual levels, क्योंकि बहुत सारे बच्चे को ये नहीं पता था propagations और direction of the movement of the waves, और wave क्या होता है, wave का characteristics क्या है, इनके बारे में. But वैसे तो if you have the conceptual clarity you could have easily cleared it, right? So first let's look into the question and then I'll enter into the class. So again before I start, let me once again tell you, अगर किसी के पास handouts नहीं है, आपको क्या करना चाहिए, वो you can directly go to the live link which is there, और इसी YouTube पे एक नीचे लिंक दिया हुआ, from the video beneath this you have download free handout of geography interior of the earth. The entire handout which I am going to use, you can take it. And any doubts which you have regarding the Samadhaan prelims course, and इसमें हमने revision cards भी इस्तेमाल किया. Revision cards, they look whatever the content we teach here, that revision cards are also available. Please go and download from this link, right? So let's quickly move here. Just a minute. So पहले हम question solve करेंगे, उसके बाद आगे चलेंगे. So the question here says that consider the following statements. ये 2023 की prelims में पूछा गया था. In a seismograph, P waves are recorded earlier than S waves. And in P waves, the individual particle vibrates to and fro in the direction of the wave propagation, whereas in S waves, the particles vibrate up and down at right angles to the direction of the wave propagation. Right? So this is the question that was asked. ये question हम conceptual clarity लेने के बाद दोबारा आके solve करेंगे. ये भी नहीं, बाकी सारे questions जो further expected है और पिछले 10 साल के अंदर इस topic के ऊपर जो questions पूछा गया वो भी हम discuss करेंगे. Now, before I move, I wanted to ask you, how many of you have experienced the earthquake? How many of you have experienced the earthquake? I think if you are somewhere in the northern part of India, earthquake हर 6 से 8 महीने के बीच में एक बार तो आपकी दरवाजा टकराता है, right? That means if you are in Delhi, it's like every 6 to 7 months में एक छोटा सा earthquake आपको देखने के लिए मिलता है. But why do we need to study these earthquakes? It is because earthquakes helps us to understand the interior of the earth. Now today's topic that we are going to deal, the first topic is that interior of the earth. Yeah, interior of the earth, if you open your handout, in the handout you will have see, go to just a minute. And ये यूपीएससी का काफी फेवरेट टॉपिक है. So this is the interior of the earth. Now we are going to study the layers of the interior of the earth and how are these layers being found. क्योंकि we know that we did not dig too deep into the interior of the earth. The maximum depth of mining that we have done is hardly not more than 15 kilometers. Maximum बोल रहा हूँ मैं. Then how do we know what do we have within the deep interiors of the earth, 5,000 kilometers below the interior of the earth, or else 4,000 kilometers below interior of the earth? It is none other than we have some sources. Now what are those sources? Those sources are nothing but, ये हर किसी को पता है, काफी बेसिक सा कंटेंट है. That is, one way is direct sources and other way is indirect sources, right? So what are these direct sources? Direct sources are, maybe you dig a borewell, maybe you go dig a deep mine, or else integrated ocean drilling projects भी बहुत सारे हैं. You go onto the depths of the ocean and drill the ocean. You get to see that there are some different materials that you get to find there. Likewise, volcanic eruption जब होगा, volcano will also give out materials, right? Now that material might be coming from 100 kilometers, that material might be coming from 500 kilometers or 1000 kilometers. So based on that, when we study those rocks, by that rock characteristics also we will be able to understand what do we have within the interior of the earth. मतलब ये मान के चलो, कोई भी ऐसी चीज है जो आप खुद इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ से वो बाहर आया and you are studying that product, that is nothing but direct sources. Direct sources में if you categorize, it is digging, right, mining or deep sea drilling or deep sea mining, or else volcanic eruption. These are the part of the direct sources. Whereas when you think of the indirect sources के अंदर अगर आप देखा जाए तो, 1, increase in the pressure, temperature and density of the material increases with the depth. This is what we know with the indirect sources. कैसे हमें पता था? क्योंकि because we have studied few indirect sources such as the seismic studies. Now what are these seismic studies? Seismic studies are nothing but your earthquake. And earthquakes की, see, earthquakes creates destructions, but at the same time earthquakes gives us the knowledge that is required to understand deep in the interior of the earth what do we have. Because scientists have studied the earthquakes in the laboratory. When they studied the laboratory and when they studied the understandings of the wave pattern, then they got to learn that waves are the one which are helping us to understand what do we have in the interior, because unki jo propagations hai, that we have to understand. I'll explain these propagations in the next 10 minutes. So indirect sources mein agar aap dekha gaya, meteors, yesterday you have learned what are meteors. Meteors are nothing but the asteroids, the uncompleted burning of the asteroids which was there in the space. When they come onto the surface of the earth, you can study them and you can also learn what do we have within the interior of the earth. कैसे? देखो यार, for example, I told you that what are asteroids? Asteroids are nothing but sometimes these asteroid belts which are there in the space, they might have also been composed of the core of the planet. ठीक है? ये मान के चलो, this is an asteroid. Imagine this asteroid came onto the surface of the earth and we call that as a meteor, right? So if this particular rock which is there, that can be the core of some other planet, right? That can be a material which might be found somewhere around 4 kilometers deep into that planet. So that's why by studying this, we can also study and understand the characteristics of the rocks that are exposed. So इसीलिए हम ये भी माना जाता है that the indirect sources में meteors are also taken into account. Likewise, magnetic field and gravitation. So whenever rocks come out, volcanic material that is coming out, they are fresh rocks, right? ये जो fresh rocks है, when they come onto the surface of the earth, they then align with the magnetic field of the earth. ये मान के चलो कुछ हजारों सालों के बाद अर्थ का मैग्नेटिक फील्ड बदला, तो उस टाइम पे जो रॉक्स बन रहा था उसका भी मैग्नेटिक फील्ड कुछ अलग होगा. So when we study those properties of those rocks, that will also help us to understand इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ में क्या ऐसा चेंजेस हो रहा है, उसके कारण हमारा मैग्नेटिक फील्ड लाइंस बदला ऑन द सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ. सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द इनडायरेक्ट सोर्सेस. आज हम उनमें से सबसे मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट इनडायरेक्ट सोर्स इज नथिंग बट योर सेस्मिक एक्टिविटी. एंड दिस ईयर you got to see near about major earthquakes, 10 to 15 earthquakes which are considered to be major in the 2023 you got to see. And Nepal earthquakes are quite common, and you also got to see the earthquakes in the Himalayas, earthquakes in the big mountains across the globe. Now why are these earthquakes mostly found in the mountainous areas? Why are most of the volcanoes are found in the Pacific Ring of Fire region? इन सब का आंसर्स आज और कल की सेशन के अंदर हमें सब कुछ पता चलेगा. ये सारे इंटरलिंक्ड कंपोनेंट्स हैं, तो थोड़ा पेशेंस रखना चाहिए आपको भी. और जब टॉपिक्स इंटरलिंक्ड होगा, क्लैरिटी हमेशा आज की टॉपिक अगले टॉपिक में क्लैरिटी मिलेगा, राइट? सो लाइकवाइज द एंटायर पिक्चर ऑफ द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ यू विल गेट अ क्लैरिटी व्हेन वी हैव डन और व्हेन वी कंप्लीट द seismic activity of the earth. Second one, interior of the earth. Third, the mantle convectional cell theory, continental drift theory, plate tectonics theory. जब ये 5 चीजें हम पढ़ लेते तो आपको एक होलिस्टिक पिक्चर मिल जाएगा. इतना होलिस्टिक पिक्चर मिलेगा, यू विल बी इन अ पोजिशन टू सॉल्व ईच एंड एवरी क्वेश्चन. Right? Now my agenda is to give you the complicated topics in a most simplified manner. So I'll be doing that justice at the end of this class. Now let's start. See, before I start, I wanted to ask you, what do you mean by earthquake? Let's keep this class little interactive so that I can get to know what do you know, and I'll be explaining if you have any small doubt. Be it a silly doubt, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, आप मेरे से पूछ सकते हो, मैं आंसर कर दूंगा. ठीक है? So now Upasna Mishra says, sir, direct sources, digging, deep mining, yes, volcanic eruptions. Very good, Upasna. And Swati says, sir, last limit of surgery, sun's gravity, I've already answered it. So basic difference between accreditation and differentiation, please tell. Okay, before I start, एक छोटा सा doubt है student का, let me also take that. What is the difference between accreditation and differentiation? देखिए यार, accreditation means if you have multiple particles or multiple matter, ये मान के चलो this is your matter, right? And if this matter is spinning, right? If this matter is spinning, so इनमें से for example these small particles, when they come together and they form a bigger particle, that means all these small particles, they accrete together, they combine together to form a bigger particle like this. Imagine they have formed this bigger particle, and then you will call this as accreditation. So for our understanding, what I'll do is, अब क्या हो गया, ये छोटे छोटे particles, they started to accrete. Right? Now what do you mean by differentiation? Differentiations के अंदर, in simple terms, you will see that the heavier material which is there, heavier material will go to the center, and this is your heavier, whereas lighter materials जो है, they will be located on the outside. That means heavier material getting into center, this process is called as differentiation. So because of the process of differentiation itself, जो आज की टॉपिक भी है, आपको ये पता चलेगा as you go deep into the interior of the earth, there the material density is high. ठीक है? That means heavier density materials will reach the center of the any celestial body, and the lighter materials which are there, they'll be on the surface, right? So what we are going to study today is, we will cut this slice of the earth and we'll try to study the earth various layers. ठीक है? This is what we are going to study today, right? To understand the interior of the earth, this is what we are going to study. I hope now this doubt is cleared. ठीक है? Okay. Now, meanwhile, many students have answered what is earthquake. See, earthquake is nothing but vigorous shaking of the earth. Now, which part of the earth is shaking? The topmost layer of the earth is the one which is shaking. Now, what is the name of the topmost layer? It is nothing but lithosphere. ठीक है? Lithosphere of the earth or the crust of the earth, when it is shaking vigorously, that is called earthquake. So, earthquake के कारण बहुत सारा activities आपको देखने के लिए मिलता है. Be it the destruction, in few areas you will get to see the destructions, but that destruction is only because of few waves. Now, what are these waves that you need to understand? So, earthquake is nothing but a vigorous shaking of the earth. Now, whenever this earth starts to shake, you will get to learn that इस shaking में कुछ ऐसे waves produce होता है. They are also called as surface waves, and some other waves are also called as body waves. Now, before I start, I also want to show you a small video ताकि it will give you a complete picture. Now, one question we got to learn that बहुत सारा ऐसा disasters है we are able to predict. So, कोई ऐसा technology है आज तक हमारे पास ऐसा है जो we are able to predict that earthquakes. Can we predict earthquakes? We have reaching to the space, we reached onto the Mars, and we have almost reached onto the Voyager के थ्रू हमने कूपर बेल्ट तक भी पहुंच गया. तो हमारे पास कोई ऐसा टेक्नोलॉजी है क्या जो हम अर्थक्वेक को अर्ली प्रेडिक्ट कर सकते हैं? यू नो दैट सुनामी वी कैन प्रेडिक्ट, मतलब वी गेट टू नो दैट अगर कोई अर्थक्वेक आया तो अर्थक्वेक के बाद सुनामी आ सकता है इफ दैट अर्थक्वेक इज विद इन द इंटीरियर ऑफ द ओशन. बट फॉर एग्जाम्पल लास्ट ईयर देयर वाज नेपाल अर्थक्वेक, एंड इफ दिस नेपाल अर्थक्वेक से पहले इफ वी गेट टू नो दैट अरे अर्थक्वेक आज आने वाला है, तो ऑब्वियसली सब लोग जाके ओपन ग्राउंड्स में दे विल स्टार्ट टू स्टे. डोंट यू थिंक दैट इट इज अ वेरी वंडरफुल इनोवेशन? So why is that the governments are not in a position to do such kind of technological researches? It is because we are very nascent. The understandings of the earthquakes is very nascent. And आज हम जो knowledge है earthquakes के बारे में काफ़ी limited knowledge है. Yes, you might be thinking that why, मतलब हमें P waves के बारे में पता है, S waves के बारे में पता है, and sir is still saying that there is only limited knowledge of the earthquake. Yes, we have limited knowledge of the earthquake. That's the reason why we are not able to develop that kind of products. Now, let me tell you, see, in the recent times, current affairs में कुछ ऐसा articles है. Let me show you. That is IITM Pune. What is it trying to do is it is trying to develop and predict earthquake early warning systems. So imagine whenever there is an earthquake, for example, this is the topmost layer of the earth, and in this topmost layer of the earth, just imagine that there is a break in the crust, and जब भी ये crust break होगा उनकी बीच में this piece of the crust and this piece of the crust, they sometimes press against each other. They are nothing but collisions. और जब भी ये break होगा sometimes vigorous shaking होता है, and this is nothing but your earthquake. The place where the breakage and the shaking starts, there is a name given to that, right? So this is nothing but the place where the generation of the earthquake starts. This generation जहाँ पे होता है interior of the earth में, maybe sometimes this is at a distance of 10 kilometers भी हो सकता है, 20, 30, 40, 50. The deepest earthquake which we have ever seen till date is near about 500 kilometers into the interior of the earth, right? So जब भी ये earthquake generate होगा, this place is called as, you can answer in the comment section. So this is called as focus. ठीक है? So focus, this is nothing but your focus point. यहाँ से जब भी earthquake generate होगा, earthquake always sends two set of waves. Now what are these two set of waves? That is nothing but body waves and surface waves. Now what is this body waves and surface waves? Let me tell you. See, for example, imagine that this is your earth. ठीक है? So on this earth, you need to understand two different terms. One is body and other is surface. Can you differentiate what is the body of the earth and what is the surface of the earth? If you understand these two, it becomes very, very easy for you to understand the further topics. So body of the earth क्या है, surface of the earth क्या है? See, first let me tell you, the surface of the earth is nothing but the place where you are standing. ठीक है? That is the surface of the earth. Now what is the body of the earth? Body of the earth is as you go and start to dig deep into the interior of the earth. ठीक है? When you start to go and dig deep into the interior of the earth, that is nothing but your body. right? So earthquake waves, when they are generated, see, they start to, earthquake waves, when they start to generate, you will see that if this is the place where the generation of the earthquake, or this is called as focus, and yahan se the waves start to come, and the first place where it hits the surface, this is called as epicenter, right? So yahan se lekar yahan tak jo waves travel kar rahe hai na, ise kehte hai body waves. That means they are traveling through the body of the earth. Now once they come onto the surface, they start to dissipate some other set of waves. Now these set of waves are called as surface waves, right? So we have two different set of waves. Now first let us see if there is an earthquake that is generated, and if we can predict through a technology, isn't it very wonderful? And India is also working on those lines, but आज तक हम सक्सेस नहीं हुआ, दुनिया में कोई भी ऐसा टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है, right? Okay, so they are planning to go for an early warning system, and इस early warning system के अंदर what are they trying to do is कुछ alarms होंगे, alarms होगा तो, and that alarms will immediately shut down the most critical infrastructure facilities, maybe like nuclear material ho, nuclear production plants, power plants, or thermal power plants, maybe big dams. So those kind of things, maybe an fraction of a second sometimes can be helpful in managing the disasters, right? So usi tarah, what you can do is, this is one technology which the government of India is working. These kind of things can be asked. So that is one thing we need to know. Now let us go little more into detail and try to understand what are the key terms that are associated with the earthquake. See, the place where the earthquake within the body of the earth, it starts, the shaking starts, that is called as focus. Whereas when these waves, when they start and come and hit the surface of the earth, that is called as epicenter. आपने ये सुना होगा earthquake आया तो what is the magnitude, you might be asking. अरे कितना earthquake आया? 6.5, 7.2, 3.4. These are the numbers you might have heard like that. So that is nothing but epicenter. Epicenter पे कितना vigorous shaking हुआ magnitude के साथ. So epicenter कहाँ पे है? ये सब, these are general terms that you might have heard. So epicenter is the place where which is directly perpendicular to the focus, right? Always epicenter is a place where perpendicular to the focus. Remember the first point. These kind of statements can be asked in the exam. So it is the perpendicular point. Yahan se the wave starts to move around. So now let me tell you one thing. Earthquake has two different set of waves, that is body waves and surface waves. See, there are this kind of diagram you might have seen in your NCERT. So this is your body waves and these are surface waves. So P waves and S waves, जब earthquake generate होगा, P and S waves are considered to be body waves. Now once you know the characteristics of these waves, you will be able to understand what are the layers of the interior of the earth. Now you might be wondering how the layers of the earth and earthquake waves are interrelated. So wait for another 5 minutes, I'll explain this also. So see here, as I told you, when the earthquake starts, okay? So at the focus, you will see there is a generation of two set of waves. Now what are these two set of waves? Broadly speaking, these two set of waves are nothing but one is a P wave, other is an S wave. Look here, this is the P wave and this is the S wave. Now what do you mean by P wave? P wave means primary wave. What do you mean by S wave? This is secondary. ये दोनों waves body waves कहा जाता है. अब let's try to understand the characteristics of this P waves and S waves. When we study, we'll try to apply the P waves and S waves within the layers of the interior of the earth. देखो, जब भी earthquake आएगा, earthquake is not just shaking few parts of the globe, they try to shake the entire earth. But लेकिन कुछ ऐसे areas में you will get to see the vigorous shaking and कुछ ऐसे areas में बहुत ही minute shaking होगा. ठीक है? They do not have that energy to shake that particular part of the earth. But no matter what, our seismographs are certain equipments. What do? Is they tend to identify any small shaking which is there on the surface of the earth, they will identify. Now imagine when there is an earthquake, you have an equipment of this sort, and agar koi shaking hua, it will start to plot a graph like this. Now these are nothing but the vertical seismographs, and across the globe what we have done is we have placed these kinds of vertical seismographs everywhere. Imagine, so you have, I'll be putting some few dots on the surface of the earth. So you see, these are the places we have placed the vertical seismographs. ठीक है, कुछ ऐसा horizontal seismographs भी होता है अलग अलग जगह. Every country has placed its own vertical seismographs, right? Now when you have these vertical seismographs, कुछ ऐसा areas पे ये मान के चलो इंडिया के ऊपर earthquake आया. कभी कभार the earthquake which you got to see on India, the seismograph which is present here, it will identify that there is an earthquake, right? But maybe a vertical seismograph which is placed on this part of the earth, ये भी vertical seismographs है, but यहाँ पे ये मान के चलो कुछ ऐसा एरिया है जहाँ पे earthquake waves डिटेक्ट नहीं हुआ. जो earthquake इंडिया के ऊपर आया, कुछ ऐसे एरियाज होता है जहां पर those earthquake waves may not be recognized, right? So जहां पे earthquake waves, when an earthquake is generated, when these waves are not recognized, उस एरिया को हम shadow zone कहते हैं, right? So this shadow zones will also help us in understanding about the interior of the earth. We'll try to interlink all of this in the further time period. So just hold on and be with me. Okay, come back. So I told you that earthquake waves can be classified into different types. Number one, that is earthquakes give rise to epicenter se. Earthquake waves will start to generate out, and there is body waves, and there are also the second set of waves, that is your surface waves. Body waves are nothing but P waves and S waves, surface waves, R waves and L waves. So here body waves are like longitudinal waves, or else more specifically if I have to go, ये जो P waves है, they are considered to be longitudinal in nature. I'll explain what do you mean by longitudinal too. So these P waves are longitudinal. The P waves, they can pass through solid, they can also pass through liquid and gaseous too. So solid, liquid and gaseous, these S waves, they are transverse in nature. So what is this transverse? It is the propagation characteristics. I know अभी मैं जो words use कर रहा हूँ आपको समझ नहीं आया होगा, but I'll explain this with a help of a animation too. So they can only pass through solid, right? Now R waves and L waves, they have similar characteristics like transverse nature, right? So what is this P wave? P wave means primary wave, whereas S wave is secondary wave. Now what are body waves? P waves and S waves. Now see, last year the question that was asked is in this category. ठीक है, last year the question that was asked is in this category. So ये जो waves travel कर रहे हैं ना, S waves, they can only travel through the solid, they cannot travel through the liquid. For example, let me again go back and show you the animation which I have used. See here, in this particular area, I told you the first set of waves, P waves travel faster and S waves travel slower. P waves are the first waves that are generated when there is an earthquake that is generated, and S waves follow later on. So ये मान के चलो अगर हमें P waves आके, by the time first P waves came and hit the surface of the earth, as soon as they hit, if we can give an alarm, by the time the S waves follow up, don't you think that we can save some critical infrastructure? कुछ ना कुछ एक minute amount of damage हम कर सकते हैं? Yes, we can do it. So here the characteristics of the P waves is that P wave का movement अलग है, S wave का movement अलग है. P waves are longitudinal in nature and S waves are transverse in nature. Now let me tell you what is transverse wave and what is a longitudinal wave. Look here, a transverse wave and a longitudinal wave is like this. So first, can anyone tell me what exactly is a wave? Wave होता क्या है? you have sound waves, you also have light waves. If I am able to being visible in this room, there are many lights in my room, or why is the other person who is sitting in this classroom able to see? Because light is also a wave. If I am able to speak and you guys are able to hear, it means that there is a wave that is traveling from my voice box and then it is trying to reach you. So simply, what do you mean by wave? Wave is nothing but a transfer of energy. वेव का काम क्या होता है? हमेशा ट्रांसफर करता है एनर्जी को एक जगह से दूसरे जगह. ये जो ट्रांसफर है अलग अलग जरिया में होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई एम क्रिएटिंग ए वॉइस, my voice is generating a wave called sound wave. When I'm speaking so loud, this is not going to harm you much, right? For example, a wave of light, this light has different characteristics, right? UV light has different characteristics because UV travels in a different wavelength. So यहाँ पे मैं ये समझाने के लिए कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, wave मतलब हमेशा एक ट्रांसफर ऑफ एनर्जी होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई हैव डिसाइडेड दैट आई वांटेड टू ट्रांसफर सम एनर्जी फ्रॉम दिस प्लेस. लेट मी कॉल दिस एज पॉइंट ए. आई वांटेड टू ट्रांसफर सम एनर्जी, दिस इज पॉइंट ए टू पॉइंट बी. ठीक है. सो व्हाट विल बी द डायरेक्शन ऑफ द ट्रैवल ऑफ माई वेव? दिस इज द डायरेक्शन ऑफ द वेव. ठीक है. A to B. So इसके अंदर while the wave is traveling, the particles, imagine the particles that are there in this wave, they can move like this or they can also move like this while they are traveling, right? For example, कोई भी ऐसा particle है, so that particle, if it is moving in this direction, आगे या पीछे. For example, if this is a particle, this particle can move in this direction or again the particle can move in this direction. यहां देखो, मेरा wave जो है, it is my direction of the wave is in this direction, and if there are any particles, my particle if it is also oscillating or moving in this direction, ये दोनों parallel माना जाता है. ठीक है. So longitudinal waves जितने भी होता है, उनका direction and propagation, they are parallel to each other. See, look here, this is the longitudinal wave. Now within the longitudinal wave, what is the direction of the wave? The direction of the wave is from point A to point B. ठीक है. Point A to B, the wave is traveling, but like, how are the particles moving here? The particles are moving in the same direction. ठीक है. So let me show it to you again, the longitudinal wave. यहाँ देखो. I hope these things are being able to understand. सबको ये समझ में आ रहा है. So yes. So let me put this in a nutshell here. For example, imagine that you have a box. ठीक है. इस बॉक्स के अंदर कई सारे पार्टिकल्स हैं, right? And these particles, I have decided that I am going to send a wave from point A to point B, passing through that. Now my wave direction is moving in this. जैसे मेरा wave जा रहा है, the particles that are present here, they should also move in the same direction like this. Now see, if this particle is moving in this the same direction, the wave is traveling from point A to B, तो ये particle का motion भी इसी direction में था और मेरा wave का motion भी इसी direction में था, A to B. तो ये दोनों lines क्या हुआ? Parallel हुआ, right? So इसीलिए this is called as, in the P waves के अंदर जब भी earthquake आएगा, when P waves are generated, which are there in the body, the P waves are always having, they are longitudinal in nature, and these longitudinal waves which are present, they are having parallel propagation. ठीक है. The particle propagation जो है parallel है. तो कैन आई कॉल दिस एज टू एंड फ्रो मोशन, मतलब आगे जा रहा है या पीछे आ रहा है, टू एंड फ्रो ओनली. बट नाउ लेट्स इमेजिन समटाइम्स the particles, instead of moving in that direction, there is also a chance that if suppose this is a box, maybe anything you can call, and these are the particles that are present in this. So जब भी ये particles होगा, for example, let's say that I am transferring a wave from point A to point B. My wave is traveling in this direction. Now what is the aim of the wave? Aim of the wave is energy. एनर्जी ए से लेकर बी की तरफ ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं. इस जरिया में क्या हुआ, ये जो पार्टिकल्स है, इंस्टेड ऑफ मूविंग इन दिस डायरेक्शन, इफ दिस पार्टिकल्स दे स्टार्ट टू मूव अप एंड डाउन. सो व्हाट इज द डायरेक्शन हियर? द डायरेक्शन इज, लुक हियर, फॉर यू टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड एग्जैजरेट दिस टॉपिक. सो ये जो पार्टिकल्स है, दे आर मूविंग इन दिस डायरेक्शन, राइट? सो यहां देखो दोबारा, as and when they started to move in this direction, you will understand that ये जो angle बना है यहां पर क्या हुआ? Perpendicular. So जब भी कोई ऐसा wave, if it is moving from point A to B and particles इनकी perpendicular direction में अगर move हो रहा है, this is called as perpendicular propagation to the direction of the wave. Direction of the wave A to B से है, लेकिन particles उनकी perpendicular move कर रहा है. ये जो characteristics है, ये characteristics transverse wave का है. So this is what? S wave. So S wave के साथ again surface waves are also there. ये जो surface waves है, surface waves के अंदर you also have two different types of waves. Again, now what are these two different types of waves in the surface waves? That is R wave and L wave. R is relay and L is love wave. So R wave and L wave which are there, they are also moving in the transverse propagation. अब let's try to understand this. एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल ले लेते. जब भी अर्थक्वेक आया, दोनों सेट ऑफ वेव्स है. सो कौन सा ऐसा वेव है जो ज्यादा डेंजरस है? बॉडी वेव्स और सरफेस वेव्स. और एल्स लेट मी आस्क यू, कौन सा ऐसा वेव्स है जब भी अर्थक्वेक आएगा विच क्रिएट मोर डिस्ट्रक्शन? इज इट पी वेव्स और इज इट एस वेव्स? सो विच आर द वेव्स विच आर क्रिएटिंग large scale destruction when there is an earthquake? Is it P waves or S waves? So let me wait for the answer. So Upasana says that perpendicular waves. Very good, Upasana. Dekho, let's try to put the same thing here. First, suppose let us take the earth. Okay? And here you have your house, or else your house also has pillars, right? Imagine these are the pillars of your house. Okay? On these pillars you have built a house. Let's try to understand. This is point A and the wave started to travel from point A to point B. ठीक है? Let's try to understand. Point A से लेकर point B की तरफ earthquake आया तो waves travel कर रहे हैं. So यहाँ पे दो ऐसी चीजें देख सकते हो. देखो, let's try to see what happens in the case of P waves. P waves होगा तो, so let me, for our understanding, what I'll do is I'll make it little more interesting. Okay, see here. अगर P waves A से B की तरफ travel कर रहा है, how does the movement of the house will be there? The movement of the house will be like this. Your house will go up and down. It's like this. Maybe the particles which are there in the concrete of your house, क्या होगा? वो भी थोड़ा बहुत ऐसा movement होगा. ऐसा नहीं है P waves आया तो कोई destruction नहीं होगा. Destruction होगा लेकिन कम होता है. So see, if I am sending the S waves, for example, let's call S waves. So P waves के बाद क्या आएगा? S waves आएगा. जब ये S waves, when you get to see, they are perpendicular propagation, these are parallel propagation. So see here, whenever P waves are there, A to B, the particles will move perpendicular, right? So if the wave is moving from A to B, perpendicular propagation में जहाँ पे S wave होगा, इनकी जो particles है, they will be moving in this direction. That means this is how the particles move, right? So imagine ये जो earth है, when S waves come, the particles will start to move like this, right? So now you tell me, will this house gets more damage when it moves in this way or when it is moving in perpendicular way? So थोड़ा टाइम सोच के आप बता देना क्या है आंसर. So Upasana says some most destructive in R waves. We'll come to the R waves, but yes, most of you are saying that, sir, these waves are more destructive in the case of S waves. Yes. Now you should understand that S waves are more dangerous as compared to the P waves. Ab, let me come back and I'll show you the same video again. See here. इमेजिन ऐसा कोई हमारे पास टेक्नोलॉजी है, जैसे ही पी वेव्स आ गया हमारे पास कुछ अलार्म्स होना चाहिए. दीज अलार्म्स व्हाट डू? दे टेल एवरी क्रिटिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर विच इज देयर इन द कंट्री दैट देयर इज एन अर्थक्वेक, प्लीज शट डाउन. ऑटोमेशन के साथ वी आर प्लानिंग टू शट डाउन. बट आज तक कोई रियलिटी नहीं है. ये जो पी वेव्स है दे ट्रैवल फास्टर एंड एस वेव्स है दे ट्रैवल लेट. एंड पी वेव्स दे कैन ट्रैवल थ्रू सॉलिड, लिक्विड एंड गैसेस ऑल्सो. एंड एस वेव्स दे कैन ओनली ट्रैवल थ्रू सॉलिड. राइट? क्लियर? These are the characteristics. कौन faster travel करता है? P waves. कौन slower travel करता है? S waves. So see here. अब हम एक बार previous year question पे जाके check कर लेते. So will this conceptual clarity help in solving the question? See here. Just a minute. चलो. Let us read this question again. Consider the following statement. In a seismograph, P waves are recorded earlier than S waves. Yes. Yes. How? I told you that P waves का जो characteristics है यहाँ पे अगर देखा जाए, P waves they travel faster. ठीक है? Right? And solid they travel slower, right? So and little more if you see propagation क्या है? Propagation ये होगा, they are parallel, this is perpendicular propagation, right? So ऐसे ही तो आपको रिवाइज करना चाहिए जो पूरा कंटेंट. अगर आप कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी के बाद बस ये छोटा सा टेबल जो मैं ड्रॉ कर रहा हूं, ये टेबल अगर आपके पास है, यू कैन रिवाइज इट मल्टीपल नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स. मतलब क्लास के बाद कल सुबह उठ के एक बार देख लेना, काफी आसान सा होगा. नाउ कम बैक एंड लेट्स डू द क्वेश्चन अगेन. सो you know that in a seismograph, P waves are the ones which are recorded earlier. Yes, P waves get recorded first, and then in P waves, the individual particles vibrate to and fro. Now let me show you the individual particles which are there in the P waves. They vibrate to and fro. आगे पीछे को to and fro कहते हैं. That means moving forward and then coming backward. So yes, this statement is true in the direction of the wave propagation, whereas in S waves the particles vibrate up and down. The particles vibrate up and down at right angles to the direction of the propagation. Yes, yes. So ये आंसर क्या है? Both the statements are right. Now this is this year's question. देखो यहां तक तो आपको कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी है. हर साल अगेन दिस कैन बी आस्क्ड इन अ डिफरेंट वे, बट लेकिन जब आपके पास कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी है तो आसान से कोई भी क्वेश्चन इस एरिया में पूछे, यू कैन आस्क. नाउ लेट मी आस्क एन एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चन. मैंने तो ये कहा दैट सर पी वेव्स कैन पास थ्रू, दे कैन पास थ्रू, आई टोल्ड दैट they can pass through solid, they can pass through liquid, they can pass through gases, right? So imagine that ये जो एक earthquake आया, ठीक है, let's try to go and take an application based question. Deep into the interior there is an earthquake. When this earthquake is generated, there are first P waves come and then surface waves they generate onto the surface of the earth, ठीक है. Later on S waves come. But P waves, I told you that they travel through solid, liquid and gas, right? So for suppose on one fine day, what you have decided is that you wanted to fly from Hyderabad to Delhi, ठीक है. आपको यूपीएससी एग्जाम देना है दिल्ली में. सो imagine this is a flight that is traveling, or you might be traveling to your home in one or the other way. In this flight, when there's an earthquake at the surface, will that earthquake waves impact the aeroplane? So I said, sir, they travel through solid, liquid and gas. So my question here is, will the earthquake waves impact the birds that are flying? Will the earthquake waves that impact anything that is flowing in the air? Yes या no. If it is impacting, how? If it is not impacting, why? I'll be waiting for another 10 to 15 seconds. आप अपना आंसर दे सकते हो. So I want this session to be little more interactive here, ताकि हम सीख सकते हैं. मैं भी आपसे सीख सकता हूं, आप भी मेरे से सीख सकते हो. Yes, that is the reason why we are here, right? Sir, but sir, what is the reason behind the differential behavior of the P and S waves? वो एक characteristic है. ठीक है. Upasna Mishra asked, sir, what is the difference? It is because vibration, these are the natural characteristics that has with these waves. क्योंकि different intensity पे different waves आता है. So जब भी अगर मैं जोर से चिल्लाऊं तो उनका waves अलग है, मैं आराम से चिल्लाऊं उनका waves अलग होता है, right? So वैसे ही उनका strength के ऊपर dependent होगा. So Krishnendu Bar says that, sir, yes, it is going to impact the aeroplane. So that means those people who are traveling in the aeroplane, they are also experiencing the shaking, kya? No. So they do not experience the shaking. Why? Because ये जो earthquake waves होता है ना, they are mechanical in nature. They are mechanical waves. So what is a mechanical wave? Mechanical waves, जब भी आप ये word सुनते हो mechanical wave, they need a medium. ठीक है? So Swati Saraf says, sir, yes, because waves travel in gas, so distance is so much that the intensity of the wave is aligned and negligible. No, it's not like that. अच्छी thought process के साथ आपने आंसर किया स्वाति, लेकिन यहाँ पे मैं ये समझाऊं आपको that earthquake waves, the P waves that are there, they are mechanical waves. Mechanical waves मतलब हमेशा उनको एक body चाहिए, एक medium चाहिए. ठीक है? वो जो मीडियम एक मीडियम से दूसरे मीडियम में जब जाता है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये जो अर्थ है, अर्थ के ऊपर कई सारे चीजें हो सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेट्स सी दैट देयर इज एन ओशन ऑन द अर्थ. ठीक है, लेट्स इमेजिन दैट दिस इज ए ओशन. राइट? सो इमेजिन दिस इज द अर्थ. Imagine there's a P wave that has been generated here. So ये है आपका P wave, right? And this P wave, it can pass through solid, liquid and gas. But ये चीज आपको यहाँ पे नोटिस करना है, किसका डेंसिटी ज्यादा होगा? Density of the S wave is more as compared to, density of the solid is more as compared to liquid as compared to gas. So जिसका डेंसिटी ज्यादा होगा यहां पे दे ट्रैवल फास्टर, स्लोअर, वेरी स्लो. ठीक है? दैट मीन्स as soon as they are traveling through the body of the earth, they are very fast. Once they touch the water, they start to reflect. Yeah, some waves, what do? They refract. They change their angle. ठीक है? ये मान के चलो they have changed that angle. तो मैं थोड़ा जूम इन कर लेता हूं. यहां देखो क्या हुआ. यहां पर ये जो वेव्स है, while they started to travel, they deflected their angle. उसके बाद डिफ्लेक्ट होते हुए यहां पे गया, फिर उसके बाद as soon as they enter into the air, they move here. But they are mechanical waves. Now what is this mechanical wave? Mechanical wave always needs a medium, a particle to move, right? So here the speed of the waves get reduced. So imagine वाटर को तो थोड़ा बहुत हिला सकते हैं, जमीन को तो बहुत ही ज्यादा तेज हिला सकते हैं, बट लेकिन हवा में क्या है? एयर पार्टिकल्स है. एंड एयर पार्टिकल्स, इफ यू ब्लो इट, the air that is present in the air, it can move very easily. There's no harm that is created by the time. They need a medium to transfer. So गैसियस मीडियम में पहुंचते पहुंचते ही उनका जो स्ट्रेंथ है वो कम हो जाता है, उनका स्पीड है जो कम होता है. इनफैक्ट दे ट्रैवल थ्रू सॉलिड, लिक्विड एंड गैसेस, बट बाय द टाइम दीज वेव्स दे रीच ऑलमोस्ट इनटू द स्पेस, दे गेट डिसिपेटेड, right? Because they need a medium. Had if imagine that there's a big pole, imagine that you have a very big pole, ठीक है, आपने कंस्ट्रक्ट किया एक बड़ा सा पोल कंस्ट्रक्ट किया, एंड दिस पोल इज कंस्ट्रक्टेड टू लिंक टू समथिंग, सो इट इज गोइंग टू एक्सपीरियंस वेरी विगरस शेकिंग. ठीक है, हमेशा अगर जो एरोप्लेन है और समथिंग विच इज देयर इन द एयर, इट इज कनेक्टेड विद द ग्राउंड, दे एक्सपीरियंसेस विगरस शेकिंग. सो इफ देर इज नो मीडियम ऑफ कनेक्टिविटी थ्रू मैकेनिकल कनेक्ट, देन उसका इंटेंसिटी कम हो जाता है, राइट? वेरी गुड प्रशांत, नीड्स मीडियम. यस, आई होप ये तो आपको सॉल्व, दैट मीन्स यू गॉट टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, राइट? यहां तक आपको समझ में आया? सो एक बार क्विकली लेट्स गो बैक एंड ट्राई टू रिवाइज दिस व्हाट वी हैव लर्नड हियर. वी हैव लर्नड दैट देयर आर earthquake waves are of two different types. इससे पहले we have learned what is an epicenter. We have also learned what is a focus. So एक मिनट. So you got to see focus. Focus से epicenter. Then you have two body waves, surface waves. Body waves are of P waves and S waves. P waves को primary waves कहा गया. क्यों कहा गया? क्योंकि ये जल्दी ट्रैवल करता है, फास्ट ट्रैवल करता है, पहला पहुंचता है. एस वेव्स दे आर कॉल्ड सेकेंडरी वेव्स. एस वेव्स आर ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज लॉन्गिट्यूडनल वेव्स. सॉरी, पी वेव्स आर ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज लॉन्गिट्यूडनल वेव्स. एस वेव्स आर ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज ट्रांसवर्स वेव्स. Whereas longitudinal waves, these P waves, they travel through solid, liquid and gas, and they travel faster. The highest speed is present in the solid and then followed by liquid, then to the gas. So solid में सबसे ज़्यादा speed है, followed by liquid and then to gas. So they travel faster and their propagation is parallel. I hope this you are clear with. Next, come to transverse waves. They can only pass through solid. They are slower and they are perpendicular. Right? So जिसका density ज़्यादा होगा, उसका medium of speed is also very, very high. Now come back. We'll apply this to the concept. R waves and L waves जो है, इनका भी they can only travel through solid and they are comparatively slower, and here perpendicular के साथ साथ they also have a different set of propagation. मतलब ये मान के चलो, ये R wave and L wave के अंदर क्या होगा? It is like this. For example, you see the propagation is that if you have your house, imagine that this house which is there, एक मिनट. So look here, P waves के अंदर your house is going to move up and down the particles, whereas S waves के अंदर the particles are moving to go perpendicular. Whereas in the case of L wave and R waves, they can also move perpendicular and then एक चक्कर circle काटता है ऐसा, right? So imagine if these are the particle movement in your any constructions, don't you think that they are going to impact a lot? Yes, they will impact a lot. So that's why we fear not for the S waves, we actually fear for these surface waves. Surface waves क्या है? They are nothing but your R waves and L waves. So एक बार मैं आपको छोटा सा animation दिखाता हूँ, that will help you in understanding the movement and the propagation of the R waves and L waves also. Then we'll go to the applications of the concept and study the interior of the earth. देखो, ये love waves है which are L waves and these are R waves, that is relay waves. यहाँ पे look at the particle movement. Suppose this is your primary waves. P waves के अंदर the damage is there. Definitely the damage is there. ऐसा नहीं है P waves do not damage. They damage, but the damage is minimal. But secondary waves, that is S waves के अंदर the damage is more. यहाँ crust जो है, crust itself will be shaking in a vigorous manner. But look at love waves, काफी dangerous है. Relay waves, ये भी dangerous है. आप बताओ इन सब में कौन सा ऐसा वेव है जो सबसे ज्यादा dangerous माना जाता है? P waves, S waves, L waves, R waves. Or else I can ask you, arrange the following waves in the capacity to damage the infrastructure which is built on the surface of the earth in the descending order. Arrange these waves in the capacity to damage the infrastructure on the surface of the earth with respect to their waves. मतलब कौन सा ऐसा वेव है जो सबसे डैमेज कर सकता है इन डिसेंडिंग ऑर्डर. आप प्लीज अरेंज इन द कमेंट सेक्शन सो दैट I would like to look into it. Yes, take your time, take 10 seconds to arrange yourself. So PSRL, very good, Ma. Yes, it is PSRL. So L waves are the most dangerous waves. Okay, so look here, this is a small propagation. Just a minute. Just a minute. Look at this love waves. If this is a particle on the surface of the earth that is going through a vigorous movement, मतलब आगे भी पीछे भी हर जगह से हिलेगा ये. So that is why this is considered to be more dangerous, right? And let me show you for R waves. R wave propagation will be like this. So you got to now know about the propagations. तो अगर मैं आपको यही चीज if I have to give you like this, propagation क्या होगा? For example, R waves का propagation जो है it is like this. L waves का propagation क्या है? P waves का propagation क्या है? Parallel. S wave का propagation क्या है? Perpendicular. और यहाँ पे देखो इनमें perpendicular इसमें भी होगा, perpendicular propagation इसमें भी होगा, perpendicular propagation इसमें भी होगा. Now which is the only wave which is not having perpendicular propagation? It is your P wave, right? So again there are questions that can be asked from this, right? Okay. And एक और चीज, इनमें से कोई भी वेव हो, अगर if I am having different density of material, for us suppose this the material density of this particle is high and यहाँ का जो material density थोड़ा कम है, और here the material density is again high, maybe here I have some liquid present here. So again imagine I have a very strong material that is present here. Imagine that there is an earthquake wave that is generated, ठीक है, at this point. So ये अलग अलग layers है earth, interior of the earth के अंदर, or else let me show you like this. Let me draw it like this, right? So for our understanding, what I'll do is, imagine these are the different layers of the earth. This is the one layer which is considered to be, and this is the second layer of the earth which is having varying density. Yeah, third layer मान के चलो, and this is a liquid layer like that. This is another layer with varying density. Likewise you have another layer. See, जब भी कोई earthquake आएगा, it is not that if there is an earthquake which is generated here, the earthquake waves are traveled in every direction. ऐसे भी जाएगा. Now where is the epicenter? The epicenter is the nearest point to the epicenter which is there. It is the nearest point to the focus. ये हो गया आपका focus and this is your epicenter. ठीक है. अब देखो ये जो earthquake waves है ना, they start to move in all the directions. It's not that they move on only one direction. They move in every direction. ऐसे भी other part of the earth. But लेकिन यहाँ पे आपको ये एक चीज समझना चाहिए that whenever they are moving from one medium to a different medium, they starts to bend, right? Now when they start to bend, we'll get to know that, for example, if I have this as the liquid layer, imagine the blue color layer which I am using here, this is your liquid layer, right? So for suppose there's an earthquake wave which is moving in this direction, will the P wave pass through that liquid layer? So I'll accentuate this liquid layer. ये मान के चलो this is your liquid layer. You know that there are two different set of waves. This is the P wave, black color line is the P wave. So this P wave, it can, while it enters into the liquid zones, P wave can pass through liquid, right? But what does it do? It bends. ठीक है, it bends. Likewise, this P waves, they start to bend. Why? Because they are entering from one medium to another medium. Likewise, this liquid layer and these are the solid layers, again it will bend. So that reflection or refraction, बचपन में हमने तो ये पढ़ा है ना, when light is moving from one medium to another medium, but the light bends. Now what is the light? Light is nothing but a wave. जैसे ही earthquake wave है, it is bending from one medium to another medium. And then, for example, if I am sending S wave is also a body wave. Now let me use a different color for the S wave. For example, imagine that this S wave which is there. So see here, this is the S wave. S wave, as soon as it touches the liquid layer, it will be dead. That means the S waves are not passing through that liquid layer. Now within the interior of the earth, while studying the earthquakes, we also got to understand that when these seismographs which are placed, imagine these are seismographs, ये सारे जो यहाँ पे हर एक जगह on various parts of the earth we have placed our seismographs. They identify कौन सा ऐसा earthquake है जहाँ पे आके इस seismograph पे indicate हुआ, कौन सा ऐसा earthquake है जो seismograph पे indicate नहीं हुआ. Imagine there's an earthquake that is generated here, and this earthquake, it has traveled to various places of the globe. कुछ ऐसी, imagine this part of the earth, मतलब जो seismograph which is placed here, I'll call this as point A, this has noticed P wave when there is an earthquake that is generated here, and then it did not notice S wave. That means हमें तो ये पता चला है ना, बीच में कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ऐसा लेयर होगा जो लिक्विड है, ये S wave को पास नहीं करने दे रहा है. So by this logic we got to understand that yes, the P waves and S waves will help us to understand what are the layers that we are having. And likewise, what did we do is, when there is an earthquake that is generated, there are few areas where the P waves are recorded and the S waves are not recorded, and we call them as shadow zones. So these are a basic content that is given in your NCERT की diagram है. इसमें ये पता चल जाता है हमें that this P waves, they are figured only between few areas, and S waves are figured only in few areas. So wherever they are absent, they are called as shadow zones. And when you look into P waves का shadow zone कम होता है, that is 103 से लेकर 142, and S waves का shadow zone जो है, it is from 103 से लेकर 103 degrees तक. ये सारे area में there will not be any kind of earthquake that is detected. Now why? Because we got to understand that within the interior of the earth there are some layers which are considered to be liquid. फिर कौन सा ऐसा layer है जो liquid माना जाता है? That is nothing but your outer core. How do we know that the outer core is liquid? It is because the time travel and the distance that is traveled from this point to this point we calculate, and that is calculated across the globe. There's a seismograph which is located every place, and this is the one which started to locate, right? So यहाँ से लेकर यहाँ कितना time हुआ? It's a global project, not an individual project, right? So likewise, we got to understand that P waves are absent in few areas, S waves are absent in few areas, and most of you know that P waves का shadow zone छोटा है और S waves का shadow zone बड़ा है, right? यहाँ तक clear है? So let me show it through you to an animation. जो भी waves अगर आप red color में देख रहे हो, they are considered to be P waves. Now P waves, it is passing through various layers of the earth, and everyone knows that on the top you have crust, then you have mantle, then you have core. So core के अंदर outer core जो है वो liquid in nature है, right? Whereas if you see these P waves, they are not figured in few areas, that is your shadow zone, क्योंकि हर एक wave क्या होता है, it starts to deflect and refract, right? Likewise, you see here, when S waves are followed by the P waves, उसके बाद इस region में there are few areas where S waves are absent, and the area is very big, that is nothing but your shadow zone, right? Okay, now with this understanding, what we will be doing is we'll going into the interior of the earth and what are the layers that we have got, right? यहाँ तक कोई doubts है? Before I move to the further topic, let me ask you, do you have any doubts? क्योंकि कॉन्सेप्ट अगर क्लियर है तो आपका अंडरस्टैंडिंग भी क्लियर होगा। आप एग्जाम में कितने भी डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन है आप सॉल्व कर सकते हो। बस सुबह उठ के जो कंटेंट यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा रिवीजन कार्ड्स की जरिया दिया होता है उसको बार बार आपको रिवाइज करना है, राइट। एंड the practice questions that are given, and for all those students who have enrolled into this course, आपके पास कुछ एक पोर्टल मिला होगा जहाँ पे practice questions are being posted there, and the practice questions like this. So let me show you the practice questions. You will given for each topic practice करने के लिए कुछ questions दिया है. So I want you to go and attempt these practice questions, right? Okay, come back. Are you clear with this topic? Please let me know that I'll be moving further. Okay. Okay. Now let's move to the next topic, that is interior of the earth. So this interior of the earth we got to learn through indirect sources. These indirect sources are nothing but your seismic activity, right? And in this seismic activity we got to learn that this earth, when earthquake is generated at the surface, it started to move in all the directions. और हमें ये पता चला कुछ ऐसे एरिया से जो इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ में, which is core, जहाँ पे waves traveled faster, and there is a layer which is liquid where the waves traveled slower, and there is a wave that is area where the crust is present and the waves have traveled little more slower. So interior of the earth mein you will learn that there are three major layers, right? So what do we have within the interior of the earth? Whatever we got to know till date, all of this are based on the seismic activity itself. कोई भी ऐसा इंसान नहीं है जो 10 किलोमीटर से जमीन के अंदर गया, कोई भी ऐसा मशीन नहीं है जो 20 किलोमीटर से ज़्यादा सरफेस ऑफ द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ पे गया, बिकॉज देर इज नो मटेरियल दैट इज प्रेजेंट ऑन द सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ विच कैन विथस्टैंड द टेम्परेचर्स दैट आर प्रेजेंट इन द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ, राइट? सो हाउ डू वी नो दैट द टेम्परेचर्स प्रेजेंट इन द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ आर दिस मच टेम्परेचर? क्योंकि हमने मीटियोर्स को पढ़ा था, उनका भी टेम्परेचर ऐसे ही होता है. वी हैव स्टडीड अदर सेलेस्टियल बॉडीज by observational studies, and we have studied the volcanoes that are coming out from the interior of the earth. Now how come they are able to give that so much of heat? Until and unless there is some heat that is present in the interior of the earth. And our earth is a dynamic entity. Itna dynamic entity hai our earth. It is very important to understand the interior so as to understand the exterior and the development aspects on the surface of the earth. So let's see. The interior of the earth can be broadly classified into two different types. I know बहुत सारे ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स से बहुत कंफ्यूजन होता है उनको, सर ये एस्थेनोस्फीयर क्या है, लिथोस्फीयर क्या है, मैंटल क्या है, कोर क्या है, क्रस्ट क्या है. ये जो कंफ्यूजन आपके पास है ना, इट इज बिकॉज यू मे नॉट बी नोइंग द फंडामेंटल divisions of the interior of the earth. See, the fundamental divisions of the interior of the earth are based on two different classifications. One, interior of the earth can be classified on the basis of chemical composition and on the basis of mechanical composition. मैंने कुछ कहा था थोड़ी देर पहले, मैकेनिकल क्या होता है. मैकेनिकल मतलब, मैकेनिकल इज nothing but a type of surface. What is the different type of surface? The type of surface is nothing but, is it solid, is it liquid, is it semi-molten in nature? कौन सा ऐसा मटेरियल है, उसको कहा जाता है मैकेनिकल, राइट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, टेल मी व्हाट इज द मैकेनिकल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ दिस स्मॉल रिमोट. It is solid. And if I have a glass of water, what is the mechanical character? It is, the water present is a liquid in nature. Likewise, your fluid body which is there, it is having a dynamic. इंसान जो है ये अलग अलग मैकेनिकल कॉम्पोजिशंस के थ्रू बना, सॉलिड भी है इंसान के अंदर, लिक्विड भी है. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अर्थ इज ऑल्सो हैविंग सॉलिड, लिक्विड, सेमी मोल्टन, प्लास्टिक, राइट? सो ऑन दोज बेसिस यू विल डिफाइन दिस मैकेनिकल कॉम्पोजिशन. whereas केमिकल कॉम्पोजिशन के अंदर निकिल है, फेरस है, कौन सा ऑक्सीजन है, डोमिनेंस क्या है, इन सबको कैटेगराइज करके हम क्लासिफिकेशन करते हैं. So let's see what are the chemical compositions of the interior of the earth. The chemical compositions can be taken into account in the form of number 1 you will have crust, ठीक है, उसके बाद है mantle, और इस mantle में आपके पास upper mantle है, intermediate mantle है. That means this mantle can be further divided into upper mantle, intermediate mantle and lower mantle. And then you have the third layer as core. The core is further divided into outer core and inner core. See, here in the chemical composition we do not talk about ये liquid है या solid है, नहीं. The liquid and solid component comes into picture in the mechanical composition. So the same mechanical composition, for example, you have this interior of the earth. Let me show you that ये है आपका core, which is considered to be ये core है, right? And उसके बाद you have mantle. Just a minute. See, देखो बच्चों, ये जो टॉपिक है ना, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को क्लैरिटी नहीं होता. मैं सच में कह रहा हूँ, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स इवन हु हैव रिटन मेंस कपल ऑफ टाइम्स दे डू नॉट हैव क्लैरिटी हियर. दैट्स व्हाई देयर आर मेनी क्वेश्चंस. आने वाले जो टॉपिक है जैसे जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी के अंदर प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स है, ये सारी चीज़ बहुत सारा कंफ्यूजन होता है उनको. ये एस्थेनोस्फीयर हिल रहा है या व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज हैपनिंग, दे आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ दिस टॉपिक्स. दैट्स व्हाई दे फील डिफिकल्टी इन सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चंस दैट आर एसोसिएटेड विद दिस. सो सी हियर, इमेजिन दिस इज योर क्रस्ट, ठीक है, ये आपका crustal part of the layer है. So this is your crust, ये हो गया mantle, and this is your core. Now what is this? This is nothing but chemical composition. इसी interior of the earth को if you wanted to divide on the basis of mechanical composition, we'll then look into कौन सा ऐसा layer है जो solid है, कौन सा ऐसा layer है जो semi molten in nature है, कौन सा ऐसा layer है जो लिक्विड इन नेचर है, कौन सा ऐसा लेयर है फिर से जो सॉलिड इन नेचर है, उनके अंदर कौन सा ऐसा मटेरियल्स प्रेजेंट है. इस क्लासिफिकेशन के ऊपर डिफाइन किया गया था मैकेनिकल कॉम्पोजिशन. नाउ लेट्स सी द मैकेनिकल कॉम्पोजिशन हियर. सो द सेम अर्थ, व्हाट आई विल बी डूइंग इज आई विल बी टेकिंग अ स्लाइस ऑफ दिस अर्थ. मैं इस अर्थ को एक छोटा सा स्लाइस, व्हाट आई हैव डिसाइडेड इज आई विल बी टेकिंग फ्रॉम हियर. एंड क्योंकि व्हाई आई एम टेकिंग द शेप टू बी लाइक दिस, क्योंकि जितने भी विद्वान लोग हैं जो टेक्स्ट बुक्स लिखा, इन सारे ने ये डायग्राम लिया, तो इसीलिए आपका जो डायग्राम होता है ना हमेशा ऐसा दिखता है, ठीक है. इसके अंदर अगर देखा गया, फॉर योर बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट वील डू इज सी दिस पार्ट. इफ यू लुक इनटू, देयर इज वन लेयर ऑन द टॉप, देन यू हैव सेकेंड लेयर ऑन द टॉप, एंड यू हैव ए थर्ड लेयर. नाउ लेट्स सी a slice of earth I'll be taking and I'll be trying to explain you what is it, right? So see, in the mechanical composition you have learned that, sorry, in the chemical composition I told you that this is your crust, and then I told you you have your mantle. Mantle can be further divided into three different types. मैंने कहा था ना that mantle is further divided into upper mantle, intermediate and lower mantle. So let's try to divide this upper, intermediate and lower mantle, and you further have divisions on the basis of outer core and inner core. So मैं outer core and inner core को भी divide करता हूं. ये है आपका outer core and inner core. So इससे पहले मैं आगे जाऊं, and those students who did not enroll into the course, let me tell you that this is one of the finest course which you'll ever come across in the market. हम conceptual clarity के ऊपर बिलीव करते हैं. जब आपके पास conceptual clarity है, जरूर आप कोई भी क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर सकते हो प्रैक्टिस के थ्रू, राइट. Our main focus in this particular test series is to test series as well as the Samadhaan course में to give you that conceptual clarity. We want to make you independent in terms of dealing with any content that you get in the exam, right? And how can be that done? One, you require conceptual clarity. अगर आपके पास conceptual clarity है, उसको रिवाइज करने का तरीका जानना चाहिए. कैसे रिवाइज करोगे? आप अपना रिविजन कार्ड्स के थ्रू रिवाइज करोगे. जो भी चीज़ आपने पढ़ा उसके बाद आप जाके you'll write a test, and then you need consistency, एप्लीकेशन चाहिए, वो कैसे करोगे? आप करंट अफेयर्स के थ्रू। करंट अफेयर्स का अलग से क्लासेस होगा इसी कोर्स के जरिए। सो दोज ऑफ यू डिड नॉट एनरोल एज ऑफ नाउ, व्हाट आई वुड रिकमेंड इज in the same video there's a link that is given in the description. Please go and click there, you will get all the details and you can talk to me directly if you have any doubts. At the end of this video I'll be sharing my contact number also, but please no calling at late hours and midnights. Definitely you drop a message, I'll get back to you in the quickest possible time, right? Okay, come back. यहाँ तक मैंने कहा था दिस इज द मैकेनिकल कॉम्पोजिशन ऑफ द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ। बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को ये लगता है ये तो मुझे पता ही है। देखो, ट्रस्ट मी, you do not know it. The clarity that you wanted, you do not know it just by reading the NCERTs and then. So you definitely need that conceptual clarity here. Okay. So see here. Now this is what is chemical composition. Now let's try to divide the same into mechanical classification. The same earth, what I'll be doing is, I'll be see here, right? This is what we have done with respect to mechanical classification, the chemical composition. So what I'll do is, we'll try to define this on the mechanical side. On the mechanical side, the classification is like this. You will have the topmost layer is not called as the crust, but the topmost layer is called as the lithosphere. So this lithosphere is solid in nature. Okay? And then you have asthenosphere. This is neither solid nor liquid. This is semi-molten plastic type of material. And then you have number 3. इसके बाद आता है mantle. ठीक है, that is nothing but mesospheric mantle. Right, this is the third layer. And then the fourth layer here is outer core and inner core. So this mantle which you got to see, it is having the semi molten solid है ये। देखो ये solid है, but लेकिन when you have the outer core, this is liquid in nature and inner core is again solid. So when you look into the chemical composition here, chemical composition के अंदर हम क्या देखते हैं? What is crust made up of? Crust is made up of Cl. Cl मतलब silica plus aluminium. Mantle, it is dominantly made up of silica plus magnesium. Now what is the core made up of? It is made up of nickel plus ferrous, that is iron. So on these bases you have divided the interior of the earth. So what do we do is, when we study the discontinuities, you go and study the discontinuities on the basis of this, and then you get confused. So that confusion I'm going to clear it now. So these are the interior layers you got to learn, and in the interior layers, see, 1. Lithosphere is solid, asthenosphere is semi-molten plastic, mesospheric mantle which is further divided into upper mantle and intermediate mantle जो है वो भी है, lower mantle. ये सारा semi-molten solid है and outer core liquid है, inner core solid है, right? Now my question is, why is the outer core liquid and inner core solid? कोई मुझे बता सकते हो? What is it that the outer core is solid and inner core is liquid? What is the reason? Yes, I think many of you think that ये जो topic है मुझे तो पता ही है, मुझे तो आता ही है, I can easily clear it. But trust me, UPSC is going into such a kind of area जहाँ पर it is asking for reasons, it is going into conceptual clarities in these areas. So why is the inner core, it is solid and outer core liquid, and this semi-molten mantle is solid again? Many of you think that mantle is nothing but solid. sorry, mantle is liquid. No, mantle is not liquid, it is solid. And do you know that there is more amount of water present in the mantle? पानी भी है उसके अंदर, ऐसा नहीं है. So one question is that, sir, liquid due to temperature, solid due to pressure. Yes, very good understanding, Swati. Sir, maybe due to density, that is Prashant Kumar. अच्छा thought process है Prashant. Or Aryan says, sir, pressure increase as we go deep inside the earth. Yes, pressure is there. See, here in the recent study materials, as per the geodesy is the highest material that you get for the geography at the scientific level. They say that pressure and temperature are secondary, but it is the purity of the material. ठीक है, हर एक मटेरियल, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप मर्क्यूरी ले लो, मर्क्यूरी को रूम टेम्परेचर में लेके आओ, वो क्या है, लिक्विड. बट लेकिन मर्क्यूरी को कुछ अलग टेम्परेचर्स में लेके जाओ, सॉलिड बन जाता है, राइट? वैसे ही हर एक मटेरियल का अलग अलग टेम्परेचर पे अलग अलग प्रॉपर्टीज होता है. वैसे अगर कोई मटेरियल का प्यूरिटी ज़्यादा है, किसी मटेरियल का प्यूरिटी कम है, that will also decide its liquidity and solidity. Now let me tell you, as per the recent studies, the inner core is solid because in the inner core the temperatures are way higher. मतलब किसी ने टेम्परेचर करके आंसर दिया था, देखो टेम्परेचर ऑफ द आउटर कोर इज लेस एज कंपेयर टू द इनर कोर, राइट? दैट मीन्स if the temperature is increasing, if it is solid, the same material, if it is present in the mantle, it is again solid, right? So आपको क्या सोचना चाहिए यहाँ पे, the dominant factor is purity of the material. जितना pure material होगा उतना ही ज़्यादा high temperatures पे solid होता है. Now inner core is having the purest form of nickel and ferrous. The outer core is having nickel and ferrous, no doubt, but लेकिन comparatively ये थोड़ा this material which is present in the outer core is not that pure which you find in the inner core. Okay, now come back to the layers. The layers are, now see here, if I classify the same layers to the mechanical composition here, देखो क्रस्ट के अंदर कुछ ऐसा एरिया हो सकता है जहां पे पानी भी हो, राइट? ये ओशन भी है. कुछ ऐसा एरिया हो सकता है जहां पे माउंटेन्स भी हो, क्रस्ट, राइट? यू ऑल्सो गॉट टू लर्न दैट देयर आर ऑल्सो सम माउंटेन्स. एंड ये जो जहां जहां माउंटेन्स है उनका क्रस्ट उतना ही डीप है, ठीक है? जहां जहां पानी है उनका क्रस्ट थोड़ा थिन है. सो सी हियर, क्रस्ट प्लस व्हाट इज लिथोस्फीयर. लिथोस्फीयर मतलब यहां देखो, lithosphere means in simple terms you got to see here, you have litho, astheno and mantle, outer core, inner core. So what is lithosphere when it comes to the crust? Do you call the crust and the lithosphere the same? Please tell me, is the crust and the lithosphere the same? Yes. Is the crust and the lithosphere the same? No. See, lithosphere has an additional layer. What is that? The lithosphere can go up to, it is crust plus upper part of the upper mantle को आप include करो. It is like this. मतलब upper mantle को आप दो टुकड़े करो. It means to say like this. You see, let me zoom in. You'll understand that. Suppose if you think you can divide this upper mantle into two parts. So upper part of the upper mantle plus, it's like this. That means whatever I am drawing, it is upper part of the upper mantle plus the crust. This is considered to be your lithosphere. ठीक है, ये है आपका. Now what is asthenosphere? I have also told that there is asthenosphere also. Asthenosphere, when you compare it to the chemical property, the chemical composition of the interior of the earth, this is nothing but it is your lower part of the upper mantle. That means ये जो lower part है ना, let me take a different color to this asthenosphere. This, look, this part of the upper mantle, this is called as asthenosphere, right? So here I'll call this layer as my asthenosphere, and some part of the intermediate mantle also वहां तक चलता है. ये है आपका asthenosphere. Now mantle के अंदर you have 3 different parts of the mantle: upper mantle, intermediate mantle, and lower mantle. It's like this. So here, broadly speaking, this is how the classifications are there. Then you have the outer core, and then you have the inner core. So see here, this is inner core, which is solid in nature, and this is outer core, and this is your mantle. In simple terms, here upper intermediate mantle ऐसा कुछ नाम नहीं है. This is called as mesospheric mantle. So I'll write it here. Right? ये है आपका mesopheric mantle. तो mesopheric mantle को हमारा अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए हमने क्या किया? We have divided upper mantle, intermediate mantle, lower mantle. ठीक है. So इसी की तरह I have also, for my classification understanding, this is upper mantle, and this is intermediate mantle, and this is lower mantle. अब देखो, that means in the mechanical composition you have lithosphere, you have asthenosphere, you have mesospheric mantle, outer core, inner core. Ab, whatever I am going to mark with the blue color, that is nothing but your liquid. So this part of the layer is liquid in nature, and this is solid in nature. ठीक है. और जो green color में है, this part of the region is semi-molten in nature. So let me write this. This is characteristics. अगर देखा जाए इस characteristics के अंदर, see here, this is semi-molten plastic type of material. This is solid, and this is again solid, molten solid, and this is liquid, and the outer core which is there, inner core which is there, again solid. Now why this is solid? It is the concept of purity, right? You got this? Now let us look into this. अब बहुत सारा, when we have sent the earthquake waves, earthquake यहाँ पे generate होता है ना, जब earthquake waves are being sent through these multiple layers, we got to understand that, अरे यार ये जो earthquake wave है ना, as and when it started to move from here, this earthquake wave, यहाँ जैसे as it is going into the interior, the speed of the earthquake wave increased. Now why? When we studied in the laboratory, we got to know that जितना material का density ज़्यादा होता है उतना ही speed होता है, right? That means the more the density, the speed of the earthquake waves are more. And you know about P waves and S waves. See, look here, P wave while it is traveling, its speed is increasing. और वैसे ही asthenosphere में गया, ये तो semi molten material है, but फिर भी उसका speed increase हुआ, और इनका जो waves है, they started to deflect in a different direction. Why? Why did they deflect in different direction? Because ये material का medium, जो हमने सोचा ये तो solid है, अब ये तो liquid हो गया. सेमी मोल्टन, इट्स नॉट लिक्विड, सेमी मोल्टन प्लास्टिक, मतलब आप एक प्लास्टिक को पिघल कर, if you keep it, that kind of material it is. Then they got to understand, and over a period what exactly happened is that the same P wave, when it is passing through asthenosphere, it got deflected but the speed increased. Then when this same P wave entered into the mesospheric mantle, its speed तो फिर से increase हुआ, but लेकिन दोबारा deflect हुआ. That means कुछ ना कुछ medium तो change है. और वैसे ही ये जो P waves है, when they entered into the mantle or outer core, again their speed increased. That means जैसे interior of the earth में जा रहे हैं, the speed of the P waves is increasing, and the highest speed of the P waves you got to see in the core, right? So by this logic we got to learn that as we go into the interior of the earth, our waves are the ones which are helping to understand that as you go depth, the density of the material increased. फिर ये इसका density क्या है, और ये जो डेंसिटी है काफी इंक्रीज हो रहा है. कितना इंक्रीज हो रहा है आपको हमें अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए इसी मटेरियल के थ्रू व्हाट वी हैव डन इज, कंटेंट तो बहुत कुछ दिया है, यू हैव लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट दैट इज इन प्रेजेंट इन दिस पेपर. सो सेस्मिक वेव्स में जो भी एक्सप्लेन किया वो सारे चीज यहां पर है. अब लेट मी टेक यू टू दी density nature of the interior of the earth, which is given in the last page. Please go to the last page. There you will get to see the density variation. देखो, right? So this is, that means crust का density देखो 2.2 से लेकर 2.29 तक. मतलब ये देखो, crust का upper part of the crust is also there and lower part of the crust is also there, and within this upper part and lower part of the crust we got to learn that upper part of the crust is 2.2 and lower part of the crust जो है वो 2.9 है density. वैसे ही 3.4 से लेकर 4.4 के बीच में upper mantle का density है, फिर लोअर मैंटल का डेंसिटी 4.5 से लेकर 5.6. ये फिगर्स इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, बट लेकिन रेंज आपको पता होना चाहिए. कभी कभार एग्जामिनर कंफ्यूज करने के लिए माइट गिव यू 13, 14, 15 बिग नंबर देता है. सो जस्ट हैव ए ग्लिम्स ऑन टू दिस एंड टिल व्हाट डेप्थ आर दे प्रेजेंट. ए ब्रॉड आइडिया आपको होना चाहिए, क्योंकि किसी भी इंसान को ये नहीं पता एग्जैक्ट फिगर्स क्या है. व्हेन यू लुक इनटू द फेमस बुक्स, अलग अलग नंबर्स देता है. सो नंबर्स आर नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट बट रेंज इज इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट. नाउ आउटर कोर का डेंसिटी 9 to 12 है और इनर कोर का डेंसिटी 12 to 13 है. सो ये एक रीजन है जहां पे यू गॉट टू सी द इंक्रीज इन द स्पीड ऑफ द पी वेव्स. बट लेकिन वैसे ही एस वेव्स आ गया. एस वेव्स, इट इज वेरी सरप्राइजिंग टू सी दैट एस वेव्स आर एब्सेंट इन आउटर कोर. क्यों? एस वेव्स का कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स तो आपको पता था. क्या था एस वेव्स का कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स? दिस वेव, वेल इट कम्स, इट इज स्लोअर and its speed also increased with the increase in the density, but the time then they came to the outer core, they are dead. That means S waves are absent in the beyond the outer core. Then we got to know that अरे यार ये तो कोई liquid layer है, right? Now based on the speed and based on the density, अलग अलग scientists ने अलग अलग discontinuities दिया. What is this discontinuity? You might have come across the NCERT और ये सारे नेम्स बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को कंफ्यूजन होता है. सो व्हाट इज द मोहो डिसकंटिन्यूटी, व्हाट इज रेप्टी, गुटेनबर्ग एंड द लेमैन डिसकंटिन्यूटी. सी, दीज आर द नेम्स ऑफ द साइंटिस्ट हु वर्कड ऑन द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ. एंड दीज साइंटिस्ट व्हाट डिड दे डू इज दे स्टडीड द वेव्स व्हाइल दे आर मूविंग इनटू द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ. एंड दीज वेव्स, व्हेनेवर दे चेंज द स्पीड, दे सेड दैट यहाँ पे कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा मीडियम है जो मीडियम को बदल रहा है यहाँ पे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मोहो इसने कहा था that see all the discontinuities are based on what? They are not based on the mechanical composition, but the discontinuities are based on the chemical composition, right? The discontinuities are based on the chemical composition. Remember this very, very clear. The discontinuities are based on the chemical composition, not on the mechanical composition, right? So if at all examiner tries to confuse you, Moho discontinuity is a discontinuity between asthenosphere and the crust. Asthenosphere कौन सा लेयर में है? It is in mechanical layer, so wrong mark करना है आपको. थोड़ा ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस इस्तेमाल भी करना चाहिए. और देखो यहाँ पे पहला जो ऐसा पर्सन है, क्रस्ट, विद इन द क्रस्ट ऑल्सो व्हेन द वेव्स आर मूविंग, लोअर पार्ट ऑफ द क्रस्ट के अंदर डेंसिटी बढ़ गया तो मटीरियल ऑफ द नेचर इट वाज चेंज्ड. सो हियर you will find the first discontinuity between the upper crust and the lower crust is Conrad. ठीक है? Between the crust and the mantle. ठीक है? Between the crust and the mantle. Crust and the mantle, you get to see Moho discontinuity. And then look here, upper mantle और lower mantle के बीच में Repti. He is the person who have given that the medium of the material is changing, the speed of the material is changing. So this is your upper mantle and intermediate mantle. This is your Repti. Then come, you will find Gutenberg, lower mantle and outer core के बीच में Gutenberg you will find. And the last person between outer core and inner core, it is लेहमैन डिसकंटिन्यूटी. बस इतना आपको जानना चाहिए. एंड आपको कोई भी क्वेश्चन इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ से अगर पूछा गया, आई डोंट थिंक बियॉन्ड दिस एनीवन कैन आस्क ए क्वेश्चन, अगर कोई पूछा भी है, इफ यू कैनॉट आंसर, इंडिया में कोई भी आंसर नहीं कर सकता. दिस इज वॉट विथ माई कॉन्फिडेंस आई कैन गिव इट टू यू, दैट ऑन ए हॉनेस्ट लेवल आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट अगर आप आंसर नहीं कर पाते हो तो कोई भी आंसर नहीं कर पाएगा, बिकॉज दिस इज द हाइएस्ट लेवल ऑफ नॉलेज विच यू कैन गेन एंड अंडरस्टैंड ऑन ए प्रैक्टिकल टर्म्स, राइट. सो यहां तक कोई डाउट्स है? यस. उपासना सर एस्थेनो मीन्स वीक. लिथोस्फीयर इज इक्वल टू क्रस्ट प्लस अपर पार्ट ऑफ द अपर मैंटल. वेरी गुड. यस. सो यहां तक कोई डाउट्स है? लेट मी मूव. कैन आई गो फर्दर? ओके. सो यही चीज हम एक बार रिविजन कार्ड के थ्रू रिवाइज कर लेते. सी हियर, लुक एट दिस interior of the earth. You know the conceptual clarity, you also have the content that is required, and look here crust, it is thickness क्या है? 30 किलोमीटर की थिकनेस है. ये सारे फैक्चुअल है, तो क्रस्ट का थिकनेस 30 किलोमीटर से लेकर लगभग 100 किलोमीटर तक जा सकता है. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन व्हाट काइंड ऑफ क्रस्ट. अगर कॉन्टिनेंटल क्रस्ट है उसका थिकनेस ज़्यादा होगा, ओशनिक क्रस्ट है उसका थिकनेस कम होगा. और डेंसिटी, टॉप डेंसिटी 2.2 है और लोअर डेंसिटी इज 2.9. एंड what are the types of rocks that you will get to see here? You can also add whatever I'm writing on the board to the revision card for your understanding. That, see, types of rocks that are found are silicic rocks. मतलब सिलिका ज़्यादा होता है. सिलिका क्या है यहाँ पर? सिलिका मतलब मिट्टी. मिट्टी का कंटेंट बहुत ज़्यादा है. मिट्टी का रॉक्स होता है, सेडिमेंट्री रॉक्स मिलता है यहाँ पर. और यहाँ पे जब भी कोई वॉल्केनो होगा, when the volcano is coming out, that volcano will give you two types of rocks. One, एंडेसाइटिक रॉक्स एंड बसाल्टिक रॉक्स. एंडेसाइटिक मतलब एसिडिक रॉक, बसाल्ट मतलब बेसिक रॉक. दो अलग अलग टाइप का रॉक्स आपको देखने के लिए मिलता है ऑन द क्रस्ट. दैट इज नथिंग बट एंडेसाइट एंड बसाल्ट, बेसिक टाइप ऑफ रॉक्स, राइट. क्योंकि वी विल ऑल्सो ट्राई टू इंटरलिंक द कॉन्सेप्ट्स, ताकि हमें आसान होगा बाकी टॉपिक्स को सॉल्व करने में, राइट. सो हियर अपर मैंटल, what are the rocks that you are going to get? For example, आप कभी कोई वॉल्केनो एरप्ट हुआ और उस वॉल्केनो के अंदर इनमें से कोई भी अगर मटेरियल बाहर आया, तो हमें यह पता चलता है ये जो वॉल्केनिक मटेरियल है, इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम दिस मेनी किलोमीटर्स, राइट. सो लाइकवाइज कितना डेप्थ से आ रहा है. सो इफ यू फाइंड एनी वॉल्केनिक मटेरियल विच इज कमिंग आउट फ्रॉम दिस लेयर, जिसका डेंसिटी, कोई भी रॉक का डेंसिटी 3.4 से 4.4 के बीच में हो, और ये जो रॉक्स है जैसे ग्रेनाइट है, पायरोक्सिन है, पायरोवेक्सिन है, ओलिवाइन है, ये सारे मटेरियल्स इतने नीचे से आते हैं, राइट. सो बाय दिस लॉजिक वी कैन से दैट इसका डेंसिटी ज़्यादा है, उनका डेंसिटी कम है, क्योंकि वो डेप्थ से आ रहा है, राइट. नेक्स्ट इज मैग्नीशियम. वे डू यू फाइंड मैग्नीशियम? मैंने कहा था सिलिका, सियाल प्लस सीमा. सीमा इज इन द मैंटल. सो magnesium and silicon oxides, अगर कोई भी material, for example if there is too much of material which is based on basalt, Deccan basaltic province, ये कहाँ पर है? It is in the Hyderabad region, the Deccan region, the Maharashtra region. So where did the volcanic material, from what depth it has come? It has come from the top, right. So likewise iron plus oxygen एंड सल्फर, निकिल अलॉयज, आयरन, ऑक्सीजन, सल्फर, ये सारे रॉक्स है. सो ये रॉक्स के ऊपर भी मेंस में हर पिछले 2-3 साल से क्वेश्चंस है, बट लेकिन इस बार प्रीलिम्स में आप एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो, क्योंकि काफ़ी टाइम हो गया इस डायरेक्शन में पूछने के, राइट. सो दिस इज हाउ यू कैन रिवाइज. एंड अपर मैंटल, क्रस्ट, दीज आर बेस्ड ऑन केमिकल कॉम्पोजिशंस. एंड यहाँ पे किलोमीटर्स भी लिखा है, दीज आर फैक्चुअल कंटेंट. सो ये आपको थोड़ा मेहनत करना है. देखो यार, पढ़ा तो मैं सकता हूं, बट लेकिन एट द एंड आपको मेहनत करना है इन टर्म्स ऑफ हाउ डू यू रिमेंबर. आई थिंक ये जो टॉपिक आज मैंने पढ़ाया, डोंट यू थिंक दैट कल वाला बिग बैंग थियरी, आज वाला टॉपिक कल सुबह उठ के एक बार या क्लास के बाद एक बार बैठ के कंटेंट पढ़ लो, उसके बाद रिवाइज कर लो और हमारा रिविजन कार्ड्स इस्तेमाल कर लो, एंड देन गो एंड सॉल्व द प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस. डोंट यू थिंक दैट दिस इज सफिशिएंट? सी, knowingly or unknowingly, the toppers who are clearing the prelims, they do few things. What? First, they revise the content, or else they get the content. Conceptual clarity जरूरी होता है. Then they revise करने के बाद टेस्ट लिखना होता है. टेस्ट को एनालिसिस करना है. एनालाइज करने के बाद आपको अप्लाई करना है. देखो, डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली, नोइंगली और अननोइंगली, ए someone who is clearing the main, someone who is clearing the prelims, they are going through this process, right? So this is also something which you need to learn in this process. And I'll be giving my contact number. अगर आपको कोई डाउट है तो आप मेरे को मैसेज कर सकते हो, बट प्लीज़ यार एक रिक्वेस्ट है, अगर कोई ऐसा छोटे छोटे डाउट्स है जो आपको ऐसा लगता है गूगल करके आप सॉल्व कर सकते हो, एक छोटा सा है, मेरे पास मत आना, क्योंकि मेहनत आपको करना ही है, ठीक है? आई एम द वन हु इज़ गोइंग टू एक्सप्लेन यू इफ़ इन केस आपको समझ नहीं आया। पहले आपकी साइड से मेहनत करो, क्योंकि मेहनत की डायरेक्शन में आपको जाना चाहिए। पढ़ाई तो सभी करता है, लेकिन थोड़ा स्मार्ट वर्क भी चाहिए। लेकिन अगर आपके पास कोई भी ऐसा इशू है इन टर्म्स ऑफ समझ नहीं आ रहा है, मेरा मदद की ज़रूरत है, तब इस नंबर पे आप मुझे मैसेज कर सकते हो। दैट इज़ माई नंबर इज़ 7382552230। माई नेम इज़ मधुसूदन रेड्डी, रेड्डी सर भी कहते हैं मेरे को, राइट? सो एंड आई विल बी वेरी हेल्पफुल, हॉनेस्ट रिव्यू देता हूँ, और लेट्स वर्क टुगेदर and clear this prelims with so much of ease. It's not a difficult task because we have done this with many students. और मेहनत तो सभी करते हैं, बट लेकिन थोड़ा स्मार्ट वर्क के थ्रू जरिया करना है। अब हम आगे वाले टॉपिक पे चलते हैं। लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक। आई होप दिस इज क्लियर फॉर यू। एंड नेक्स्ट what we'll be doing is we'll be going to the next topic, that is rotation and revolution of the earth, latitudes and longitudes. I know I've spent good amount of time here, और यहाँ पे जो भी कंटेंट यहाँ पे दिया हुआ, it is just go through the content, all the conceptual clarity you will have it. So यहाँ पे डायग्राम भी दिया हुआ है आपके लिए, कौन सा ऐसा मोहो डिसकंटिन्यूटी है, कॉनराड कहाँ पर है, रेप्टी है. सो दिस इज कंप्लीटली बेस्ड ऑन केमिकल कॉम्पोजिशन. सो मैकेनिकल कॉम्पोजिशन के ऊपर आपको जाना नहीं है. सो सेम थिंग्स आर ऑल्सो रिटन हियर, सो यू नीड नॉट वरी, राइट. देन okay, come back. So here the composition of the earth, interior of the earth, everything is given, what is upper mantle, lower mantle consisting of. Now let's move to the next topic, that is latitudes and longitudes, one of the favorite topics of UPSC again. And before I start with this topic, I want you to solve a question which is given in the UPSC, पिछले साल में दिया था. So look here, this question every now and then. एंड वैसे मैं एक चीज़ दिखाना चाहता हूँ, जो मेरे स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं ना, वो हमेशा शॉर्ट नोट्स बनाते हैं. ठीक है, ये एक मेरा स्टूडेंट का शॉर्ट नोट्स है. नाउ वेन एवर दिस स्टूडेंट वॉन्ट्स टू रिवाइज, व्हाट डू दे डू इज दे सिंपली गो थ्रू दिस डायग्राम. उनका काम बन जाता है. ये एक स्मार्ट तरीका है. सो यू कैन ऑल्सो ड्रॉप ए मैसेज, आई विल बी शेयरिंग इट, एंड दिस इज वॉट वी हैव इंडिकेटेड इन दी चार्ट ऑल्सो. द रिविजन कार्ड्स में ये सारे चीज़ आपको दिया ही हुआ. So don't worry, you'll get this. Okay, so now let me ask you a question. So look at this question. This was asked, the latitudes and longitude topics के ऊपर. The question that was asked in the year 2019 previous year question है, that is on 21st of June the sun does not set where? It does not set below the horizon at the Arctic Circle. Okay, so this is the question that has been asked, but what we'll be doing is, आज we are almost done with the time, but what we'll be doing, we'll be coming to the atmospheric topic little later, क्योंकि we'll go to the plate tectonics topic and we'll complete it, because हमने tectonic geography शुरू किया तो वो पहले complete करेंगे. यहाँ तक कोई doubts है, because these are the most important topics. So okay, one doubt that has been asked is, sir, why Sial is lighter than Sima? क्योंकि सियाल का जो मटेरियल है सिलिका से बना है. सिलिका इज नथिंग बट मिट्टी. सीमा इज नथिंग बट सिलिका प्लस मैग्नीशियम. जब सिलिका एंड मैग्नीशियम दोनों पास में होता है ना, दे बाइंड वेरी क्विकली. ठीक है, वो हेवियर बन जाता है. एंड सिलिका प्लस एल्यूमिनियम, इट विल नॉट बाइंड दैट इजीली. सो इसीलिए वो लाइटर है, राइट. सो हियर आई वांटेड टू टेल यू वन मोर थिंग. जो टॉपिक हमने पढ़ने वाले हैं कल, that topic, it is like this. For example, that is nothing but the interior of the earth. In the interior of the earth, you got to learn the lithosphere. Matlab, from now on, whatever we are going to study, it is based on the composition of mechanical composition only. I'll not be referring myself to chemical composition, right? क्योंकि mechanical composition के basis के ऊपर mountains कैसे बना ये पढ़ाया गया था. That means the study of, on the basis of mechanical composition itself, you got to learn how the mountains are formed, how the plates are moving, how the crust mantle differentiations are there. So from now on, what we will be referring is only to the mechanical composition. So be a matured kid, and discontinuities के लिए we will be studying chemical composition, and for further plate tectonics and all we will be studying lithosphere, all these aspects in the mechanical composition. यहाँ तक clear है? Okay. So if you look into, you know that as you go into the interior of the earth, temperatures भी बढ़ेगा, density भी बढ़ेगा, right? So एक जगह टेम्परेचर ज्यादा होने के कारण और एक जगह टेम्परेचर कम होने के कारण क्या होता है? द मूवमेंट ऑफ द मटेरियल स्टार्ट्स. फॉर सपोज लेट्स इमेजिन दैट यहां पे टेम्परेचर काफी ज्यादा है. दैट मीन्स एट द आउटर इनर कोर द टेम्परेचर इज वेरी हाई, and at the outer core the temperature is very comparatively less, and on the surface the temperature is very less. So what happens is that it will start to boil. Our interior of the earth will start to boil. Whenever it starts to boil, it will throw away the materials again and again. जैसे ही कूल होगा नीचे जाएगा, फिर से गर्म होगा, फिर से ऊपर आएगा. अब थोड़ा बहुत कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स भी हमें जानना चाहिए. See, our radioactive materials which are present in the interior of the earth is very very high when you go deep inside. अर्थ के अंदर ये मान के चलो विद इन द आउटर कोर देर आर thousands of nuclear blasts that are taking place. Yes, I'm telling thousands and thousands of nuclear blasts that are taking place on a daily basis. Now why is that? It is because अर्थ के अंदर you have radioactive material. रेडियोएक्टिव अलग अलग मटेरियल्स होता है. रेडियोएक्टिव मटेरियल इन सिंपल टर्म्स अगर मैं बताऊं क्या होता है, एक दूसरे को इग्नाइट करता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपके पास कुछ मैच स्टिक्स है. लुक हियर, इमेजिन यू आर हैविंग सम मैच स्टिक्स. सो दिस इज अ मैच स्टिक, राइट? So this matchstick is having certain kind of material which can have the potential to get fired. Radioactive material क्या होता है? For example, वैसे ही आपके पास कई सारे matchsticks है, हजारों matchsticks है. So now imagine if they are placed so closely, if you have lit up this, don't you think that there will be a big fire? Right? So anything of this sort which has the potential to get fired and give radiation, that is nothing but radioactive material. But radioactive materials में कुछ ही ऐसे materials को जो radioactive कहा जाता है, right, which will ignite that potential to burn, right? फिर ये मत पूछो सर मैचस्टिक्स भी तो फिर रेडियोएक्टिव मटेरियल है. नहीं, आप कलेक्शन ऑफ मैचस्टिक्स आसपास में प्ले करो एंड देन you fire it, that has the potential to convert into a radioactive material. आसान भाषा में अगर समझाएं तो, right? And in the layman terms, so वैसे ही इस टाइप की materials you have within the interior of the earth. Now for this, let me draw this earth in a different manner. Imagine that this is your earth. ठीक है? Within the interior of the earth, you know this is the inner core and this is outer core. अब देखो ये है आपका क्रस्ट, ठीक है, और दिस इज योर लिथोस्फीयर, राइट? एंड दिस इज योर लिथोस्फीयर. एंड इन दिस लिथोस्फीयर सी टेम्परेचर नीचे ज्यादा है और ऊपर कम है. what does this do is the material, because of the radioactivity, they are burning something, and as they burn they start to rise. ठीक है? Now by the time they rise they get cooled. ठीक है? Any material that is getting heated, it will start to rise, and the material which is present in the outer core, it will start to pump up into the mantle and then come onto the surface. ये मान के चलो ये asthenosphere है, asthenosphere, and then this is your crust. It starts to diverge. So when this material is diverging, it is trying to push, it is actually trying to push different blocks. Let me draw it in a different way so as to get an idea. Imagine this is one block of the lithosphere. Likewise, here This is another block of the lithosphere. अब ये जो material है which is trying to come up, what does it do is it punctures the lithosphere and it will break the lithosphere. How does it do it? It does like this. For example, see here, when this volcanic material it is trying to come up like this, while it is coming up, it gets cooled and it gets diverged. ठीक है, क्यों? यहाँ टेम्परेचर ज्यादा है, यहाँ पे टेम्परेचर कम है. इस टेम्परेचर डिफरेंस को हम क्या कहते हैं? वी कॉल दिस एज differential heating of the interior of the earth. Now, why are the movements which are there within the interior of the earth? It is because of differential heating. What is this differential heating? कोर के पास ज्यादा टेम्परेचर है और यहाँ पे कम टेम्परेचर है, राइट? ये डिफरेंशियल हीटिंग के कारण द मटेरियल विल स्टार्ट टू मूव विद इन द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ. नाउ व्हेन दे मूव, समटाइम्स द फ्रिक्शन दैट इज क्रिएटेड बिटवीन द मैंटल कन्वेक्शनल सेल्स, ये जो मटेरियल है जो मूव कर रहा है इसको सेल्स कहा जाता है, मैंटल कन्वेक्शनल सेल्स. ये डाइवर्ज होकर क्या होगा? कुछ ऐसा मटेरियल है, इट विल ट्राई टू कम आउट, ठीक है, एज अ वोल्केनो. समटाइम्स व्हाइल इट इज, समटाइम्स व्हेन व्हाट डज इट डू इज, ये जो मटेरियल विच इज मूविंग आउटवर्ड, it will break away the lithosphere. Now when there is a breakage, you will understand that this breakage will lead to the plates formation. Imagine, वैसे ही कई सारा ऐसा material है which is moving upward and it is making cells like this. That means it is rising और फिर it is sinking here, right? So in this manner you will get to see that there is a material rising and sinking. वैसे ही हर एक जगह जहां जहां पे इस टाइप की प्रोसेस देखने के लिए मिलेगा, you will get to see the formation of plates. So our lithosphere is a collection of plates. वैसे ही you take a piece of cake and cut that cake. Now imagine those cake pieces are moving around, right? So these are your lithospheric plates. Ye lithospheric plates, why are they moving? They are moving because of differential heating of the interior of the earth, and because of this you have mantle convectional cells, right? When you have this mantle convectional cells, they keep on moving. So ye kabhi kabar ye dono टक्कर सकते हैं, they can hit against, फिर तो mountain बनेगा. Sometimes they can go far away. While they move far away, they'll lead to the formation of volcanoes, and each of this is considered to be a lithospheric plate. So कल का टॉपिक जो है वो है लिथोस्फेरिक प्लेट्स, हम डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे, राइट? आई होप इफ यू हैव एनी डाउट्स, यू ऑलरेडी नो दैट द ड्रिल, एंड हमने रिवीजन कार्ड भी रिवाइज किया था. इस रिवीजन कार्ड के अंदर आगे कुछ ऐसा टॉपिक्स है जो हम एटमॉस्फेयर टॉपिक के साथ करेंगे, राइट? फिर इस रिवीजन कार्ड एंड द कंटेंट दैट इज गिवन, दैट इज क्वाइट सफिशिएंट फॉर यू टू रिवाइज, एंड कोई भी क्वेश्चन है आप सॉल्व कर सकते हो. और यहां पे कुछ प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चंस भी है. इस प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चंस के अंदर सी, लेट अस ट्राई टू सॉल्व ए क्वेश्चन व्हिच इज आस्क्ड इन द प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन. हमारे पास जो कंटेंट है उस कंटेंट से हम सॉल्व कर सकते हैं क्वेश्चन को. तो एक बार लेट्स ट्राई टू सॉल्व. कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग पेयर्स, सॉरी, कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स. इट इज इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक रेडिएशन, geothermal energy, gravitational force, plate movements, rotation of the earth, revolution of the earth. So इनमें से कौन सा ऐसा चीज है which of the following above are responsible for bringing dynamic changes on the surface of the earth? Dynamic changes on the surface of the earth. Yes, electromagnetic radiation, can it do? मैंने पढ़ा था, समझाया था व्हाट इज इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक रेडिएशन. इट इज नथिंग बट द रेडिएशन विच इज कमिंग आउट फ्रॉम द सन हैज वॉश्ड अवे द एटमॉस्फेयर ऑफ द सर्फेस ऑफ द अर्थ. मैंने उसको कहा था दैट रॉकी सर्फेस एक्सपोज हुआ. सो इजंट इट मेकिंग सम चेंजेस ऑन द सर्फेस ऑफ द अर्थ? यस, इट कैन डू. सो geothermal energy is nothing but when the water that is present in the interior of the earth, or the heat that is present in the interior of the earth, it is making some changes on the surface of the earth. Yes. Next, gravitational force, of course. Plate movements mountains बनाता है. और rotation of the earth, यस इफ देर इज नो रोटेशन ऑफ द अर्थ, अगेन सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ चेंजेस भी हो सकता है, एंड रेवोल्यूशन ऑफ द अर्थ, यस ये दो टॉपिक्स के बारे में हम आगे डिस्कस करेंगे इन ए डिटेल मैनर, क्योंकि यहाँ पे देखा आपने क्वेश्चंस जैसा पूछा, ये कुछ जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी का टॉपिक्स है जो हमने कल आज पढ़ा था, कुछ ऐसे टॉपिक्स है जो आने वाले क्लास में होगा, तो इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ ज्योग्राफी एक ऐसी चीज़ है, ज्योग्राफी और एनवायरनमेंट आपको साथ साथ पढ़ना चाहिए, और ज्योग्राफी एक ब्रिज बनता है टू अंडरस्टैंड द एग्रीकल्चर टॉपिक्स, टू अंडरस्टैंड अदर टॉपिक्स, राइट। सो टुगेदर विद ज्योग्राफी एंड एनवायरनमेंट यू विल बी गेटिंग नियर अबाउट 30 ऑड क्वेश्चंस, आराम से आप 50 मार्क लेके आ सकते हो, बाकी 40 मार्क हिस्ट्री पॉलिटी बाकी सब्जेक्ट से लेके यार उतना तो लेके आ ही सकता है। एंड ट्रस्ट मी आने वाले 15-20 दिन जो है काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट डेज होगा आपकी क्लासेस में, क्योंकि द काइंड ऑफ कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी दैट आई विल बी इम्पार्टिंग इन दिस क्लासरूम विल गिव यू द कॉन्फिडेंस टू क्लियर प्रीलिम्स इन ज्योग्राफी एंड एनवायरनमेंट। रेस्ट ऑफ दैट व्हाट यू कैन डू इज बेसिक सब्जेक्ट्स जो है जैसे पॉलिटी है, इकोनॉमी है, इनमें स्कोप ज़्यादा होता है आपको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा मार्क्स लाने के लिए, राइट। सो हर एक रिवीजन कार्ड जो आपके पास है, जैसे कोई भी रिवीजन कार्ड अगर आपके पास अभी तक पहुंचा नहीं है या मिला नहीं है तो आपको पता है ड्रिल क्या है, व्हाट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन गो टू द प्रीलिम्स क्रैश कोर्स, टाइप इन द गूगल एंड देन गो टू द फ्री रिसोर्सेज। यहाँ पे फ्री रिसोर्स में कई सारे रिवीजन कार्ड्स है, जैसे प्रीलिम्स का हाई आउटपुट थीम्स भी दिया हुआ, कहाँ से क्वेश्चंस पूछा कहाँ से नहीं आया, और प्रीलिम्स रिवीजन कार्ड्स के अंदर हर एक रिवीजन कार्ड आपको एक्सप्लेन किया गया, और इस रिवीजन कार्ड्स को आप प्रायोरिटी पे रखना है, हाई आउटपुट थीम्स को आप टॉप प्रायोरिटी पे रखना है, राइट। सो विद दिस व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट इट बिकम्स क्वाइट इजी फॉर यू। जो बच्चा जैन में स्टार्ट करने की सोच रहे हैं तब तक आप तो नियर अबाउट 20% to 30-40% ऑफ द सिलेबस कंप्लीट करके बैठोगे, एंड देन शतक सीरीज तो शुरू हो रहा है, शतक इज स्टार्टिंग इन द नेक्स्ट वीक इटसेल्फ। व्हेन यू write the test on a continuous basis, don't you think that you'll be able to solve the prelims? Very easily it will do. Give me a discipline of 60 to 80 days and I'll give you the result of prelims. Yes, mark my words. Just a discipline of 60 to 80 days, that is what I am asking from you. Okay. Now, you know, you have my contact number. Agar aapke paas koi bhi doubts hai, you can also call our counselors. If you have not enrolled, you can think of this particular course. It will help you on a consistent basis to clear the prelims, and tomorrow we will be meeting again, so we'll be seeing you more often, and andarki namaste, see you, malli galudam, thank you। and yahan tak dekh hi liya to please subscribe to the YouTube channel and as well as like it। agar aapko video acha laga to just drop a like। thank you guys and see you।